58 Shawsheen of the town of Burlington. And if anyone questions how important our job is tonight, or how important people have historically taken it, back in, we're up to year 250 since the Declaration of Independence, but before that, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when they tried to impose royal control of all the local towns, after the Boston Tea Party, every town except Boston ran their local magistrates out of town, some on a rail, some tarred and feathered. And the only magistrates left were those in the city of Boston, where they were protected by troops. It was the loss of local government, the loss of what you folks are doing tonight, that was a major trigger for the revolution. And so I'd like to thank you for continuing that tradition. All right. Let's go through an opening motion. The moderator would consider a motion that we adjourn, or that we adjourn until May 13th at 7 o'clock, should we not finish the warrant tonight. Hold on, I'm not done yet. That we appoint Bruce Morey as deputy moderator, and that we allow town meeting members to vote by raising their hand instead of standing. Do I hear so much motion? All in favor? Got to raise your hand. Oh, sorry, got to stand. There we go. All right, thank you. That passes. From now on, you can be lazy, sit down, just raise your arm. Ms. Neufeld, did you have a question? Yes. Wait for the microphone. My hearing's not that good. Well, actually, mine is great, but somebody else I'm sure isn't.
Sorry. Phyllis Neufeld, Precinct 5. It's very hard to hear you. It's almost muffled.
Is this better? Does that mean you really want to hear me, or you just prefer? Okay, I'm just checking. I'm sorry. Okay, a quick review of our procedures. Everything at the meeting goes through the moderator. When it comes time for discussion, should you wish to speak, you raise your hand and you wait until you're recognized. Once you're recognized, give us your name and precinct number, and then wait for the mic, and then wait for the mic to work, and then we shall proceed with your questions or comments. Should anyone wish to make an amendment, there are forms up at the back, on the back table. And that's about it. Any questions before we get started from anyone? Myrna, I'm sure there were 91 here when we started. I'll get a updated count for you later on. So let's move on to Article 1, reports of committees. We'll start with Government Review Committee. Go ahead. It's all yours, Betsy. Thank you.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hello? There we go. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Mr. Soundman. It's been 3 months since I last talked to town meeting about the Burlington Government Review Project. Since that time, our committee and its subcommittees have been quite busy. But before I get into all of that, let me introduce you to the BGRC team. BGRC consists of 11 members. We welcome 3 new members since the project began, Matt, Karthik, and Eileen. Our teams meet every 2 weeks with subcommittee meetings in between. All are available through WebEx and broadcast on BCAT. As a reminder, and for the benefit of our new town meeting members, let me share with you a bit of background. Why are we doing this? Well, in 2018, recognizing that it had been almost 50 years since the structure and effectiveness of town government had been analyzed, the town convened a government review committee. The committee made these recommendations: to review the elected board's positions and appointed positions, to investigate the role and responsibilities of town manager versus the town administrator, to look at reporting structure and management of town employees, to look at internal and external communications, and to utilize an independent body like a consultant. Additionally, it recommended that a charter committee be formed and to take a look at revising current bylaws. To carry out these recommendations, the Select Board formed BGRC last year. With that as history, the mission of BGRC is to ensure that Burlington Town Government has an effective and appropriate structure for its residents and constituents, and to recommend changes to accomplish that goal. More specifically, they have asked us to review all parts of town government and to do so in an unbiased way where we get community input in an open, inclusive, and transparent manner. To benchmark best practice from comparative communities. To consider the role and title of town administrator and town manager position. To evaluate new provisions, such as a recall provision. To produce a charter for the town that is clear and responsive to our town needs. To identify what should be in a charter versus what should stay in bylaws. And finally, write a report that clearly explains our recommendations. Today, Burlington has a patchwork of different regulations from which we govern. Our government is regulated by bylaws, special acts, state law, policies, procedures, and in some time, just cases, tradition. I don't know about you, but when I first joined town meeting, I had no idea what a special act was. I didn't even know where to find it. I didn't know how it related to the bylaws. I just knew everybody talked about it, and I didn't know what it was. Obviously, I've now learned that. Some of all of these are outlined, and much of them can be difficult to understand as well as to find. One way to help make this understandable is to consolidate much of this in a town charter. There are many benefits to having a town charter. One of the most compelling for our residents is that it makes it easy to understand the rules of the town and how it operates. And it's mostly in one place. We have the opportunity to write it in a way that is understandable for those of us without law degrees. A charter also clarifies roles and responsibilities, which in itself will go a long way towards streamlining our decision-making process. Additionally, it can increase the transparency of town government to those who serve through requiring public reporting, ethics standards, financial controls, and how the public can actually participate in the process. Lastly, and very important, as we heard in our stakeholder interviews, the Charter gives us an opportunity to reduce the potential of conflict by defining authority and clarifying roles and accountabilities for our government boards and officials. Our approach has been to partner with our consultant, the Collins Center at UMass, and to dig down deeply and study both our current structure, the bylaws and special acts that regulate our government, and benchmark these best practices of comparable towns. We've spent time understanding how things work in practice, what's working and what is not. To do that, we conducted a stakeholder interviews, the result of which are a very interesting reading, I think you will find, and you can find it on our website. Additionally, we have and will continue to talk to people who are actually doing the work to see how things actually work. As you know, we are in the midst of a community survey to gain input from our residents. All of this will inform the process and content of the charter that we are developing, as well as the non-charter recommendations that we'll be putting forward. A simple example of one of those recommendations might be, for example, to update the town meeting handbook, which, if you've taken a look at it, is grossly out of date. At the end of our work, we will produce a charter and a report which will be presented to the Select Board and to town meeting. In developing the charter, the Collins Center has consolidated our town bylaws, our special acts, and with Mass state law, and put the result into a charter format. The committee reviews each section, starting with the legislative branch, will continue through the final section of the administrative organization. So where are we in all of this? We began with the legislative branch, where we analyzed the approach taken by comparable towns and discussed town meeting, the town moderator, and the criteria for referendum. From there, we have moved on to the executive branch. Again, we start with best practices used by our benchmark towns. For the review of elected boards and committees, we have started with a discussion of the Select Board and then moved to the town administrator role and are now in the process of discussing the other elected boards and committees. Once that is complete, we will take up the topic of the town administrator title. As we go through this process, the decisions are documented and, when appropriate, added to the draft charter. The table of contents is still evolving, but I think it's always a good way to see how easily one can find what they are looking for. And once they find it, will they find it easy to understand? So just taking a quick look, and this, I know this is tough to see, but you can see from this that it's pretty clear that if you want information about town meeting, you simply go to section 2. And if you want to know about filling a town meeting vacancy, you go to 2.8. Now, as you can see from here, we've stopped where the yellow is. We haven't filled out that part yet, so those are not completed with topics underneath that at this point, but we will. Clearly, this has been a lot of work on part of our committee, but that's not all. Up to now, we've talked about what's done in the committee, but we have also been very busy on external-facing side of our project as we make sure the project is visible to the town. The committee worked with our survey consultant to develop the town survey, which town meetings so generously funded, which was sent to 10,453 households in town. We had a target of 800 surveys to get back, which is 3% of the town population. We were told that between 3 and 5% is a norm for public surveys such as this. I'm happy to report that as of 1 o'clock today, we had 80% of our goal. But that doesn't mean we're going to be happy with that, because I think we should strive for over 5% now. That was kind of an easy target, so we're going to try to up the ante. With significant support from Laura, our Burlington's communications officer, we have installed a number of external communication projects ranging from developing a slogan, help Burlington, help guide Burlington forward to working with us on creating a website, Facebook presence, and postings on the Newtown Green sign. Coming up, we are going to actively reach out to town boards and committees to brief them on the project and get input. We started with the Burlington Chamber of Commerce at their government affairs meeting in February, and here we are today talking to you. It's our plan probably to have a table at the Wednesday night meeting, so you'll have an opportunity to actually talk to us and maybe ask us some questions as well. We will schedule further meetings with other boards and get their input, and we'll conduct a public input session this summer where we invite the entire community. What's coming up next? We're going to finish the detailed discussions on our review agenda and analyze the community survey. We then need to execute on our communication plan to assure that the process is visible to all and where we can gain meaningful input to the process. Once we go through this process, incorporate what we can into our work, we'll finalize our draft charter and recommendations. Documents that will first go to the Select Board and then to you here at town meeting next January. The time is very tight. We've got a lot to do and not much time to do it, as you can see from a project plan. But we think it's doable. I know this has been a lot of information to absorb, but if you want to learn more, we encourage you to attend one of our meetings. You can either do it live or you can do it through WebEx. Watch us on BCAT. You can send comments to our website or directly email us or talk to any one of us. We'd be happy to talk to you about what we're doing. One more thing before I start. If you haven't completed the survey yet, please do. If you can encourage your family members or those of your community, exercise class, soccer group, condo association, apartment building, you get the drift, et cetera, et cetera. Please encourage them to do it because it's with this input, it's the community's town, it's all our town, and we want to hear from as many people as we can. We need to hear from everyone. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and thank you, Mr. Moderator, for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Our next presentation is on our financial situation. I'll turn it over to our town administrator, Mr. Dinizio. And while they're getting set, unlike previous years, I'm going to allow up to like 15 minutes of questions afterwards. If you still have thoughts on our general finances. No more than 15 minutes, though.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Dinizio, Town Administrator. So I have just a few slides to share with you today. Obviously, you all got some detailed reports in the detailed budget book and the voluminous backup that was sent out or picked up. Before I get started, I want to thank all of those that showed up a week early to pick up their materials. That saved the town close to about $1,000 from having to mail that all out. Also, while we're on the thanks, I want to thank the Select Board for their review and guidance during this process. Thank the Capital Budget Committee for their work with the departments. Thank the Ways and Means for 3 months worth of meetings, subcommittee meetings, and countless hours of review. Thanks to the department heads and the finance team for pulling together all the detailed backup that we're able to share with you and all that information. And thanks to many town meeting members that reached out before town meeting with questions, either after they got their backup or even some cases even before, to get their questions out ahead of time. That really helps us tonight. So So budget guidelines, the budget process really kicks off in the fall, but the work really starts when we get to the budget guidelines. We have a budget summit that starts right after the new year. We get together and we have what's called a budget summit. That's when folks from Ways and Means, from the select board, from the school committee, finance folks from both the town and school, the administration from both the town and school, we get together and review the long-range financial plans for the town, and we establish the guidelines for the operating budget and the accommodated accounts. These guidelines provide the guardrails for departments to use as the formation of their budgets. Those guidelines, I forgot to switch my slides. Those guidelines for FY27, you can see them on the screen. They were set at 4.25% for both town and school operating budget, and then 8% for the accommodated accounts. The budget that you have in front of you tonight, the overall increase is in compliance with those guidelines. You'll see that the town operating budget is about 4.1%, the school operating is 4.25%, and the accommodated accounts as a whole came in just under 8% at 7.9%. So budget goals, I want to talk a little bit about budget goals and other considerations that we use as our guiding principles when we're preparing the budget. So first goal, we have to have a balanced budget. So what can we do? Our first goal is to maintain level services where we can and try to minimize the property tax impact from that. So excess capacity is a big proponent of that. What is excess capacity is the amount that is not taxed, or in Burlington, we don't tax to the max. We always have an amount lower than the amount we're allowed to tax, and that's called excess capacity, and that remains the foundation of our budget building. One of the big factors in that is new growth. What's called new growth. We conservatively estimate new growth here to be about 1.5% of our tax levy each year. That's lower than any year we've had in the last 30 years, and it's lower than any average period during the whole time. So what can affect new growth for us? The things that keep us up at night is the changing of the commercial sector. Primarily what's going to happen with office. We all know, we see empty parking lots. What's going to be the next iteration of those office parks? And how can the tax bill of residents be affected when our residential growth continues to be a nice upward trajectory and our commercial growth is either flat or even in some cases no growth at all? Okay, we're caught up. So our second goal is to, control the town and school operating increases to mitigate future financial pressures. So as you can see from the slide up there, the town and school operating budget increases for the last few years for the guideline have been 4.5%. That's right what the budgets have come in at. This year, when we got together for our guidelines meeting, there was some concern at the last couple town meetings about the pressures of those increases and could we keep them up. So we tried to do what we could to scale those back a little bit. We have an optimistic goal over the next few years. Some may say more optimistic than others, to try to continue that. We decreased about 0.25% on both of those operating budgets, and we're able to accomplish that this year. As you can see, we're hoping to continue to do that. That's yet to be seen if we can, because we're always going to have need to have the conversations between what the tax impacts are, what the decreases in those could be versus what type of level of service can we continue to expect and keep up at those increases. The third one is to continue to use our long-term financial plan as our guidepost. So we have a multi-year financial plan that we share with. Am I doing that?
Oh, I won't.
Oh, sorry. This is part of the act. So we want to maintain our healthy reserves. We want to have conservative budget assumptions. We want to center all of our financial decisions on that long-term plan. Not saying that that makes every decision for us, but we try to keep a plan that is, maintains with our current policies. We want to keep our reserves to a level where we feel comfortable. Reserves being our stabilization fund and free cash. We want to make sure that we're not overestimating on any local receipt growth or new growth. We want to do all these things to maintain our AAA bond rating. That's very important for us. We have some borrowing that's coming up. You'll hear about it when we talk about the operating budget for the police station borrowing, a Fox Hill borrowing. We have a high school project on the horizon at some point. We have a potential Shawsheen project on the horizon at some point, and on a regular basis, we borrow money for infrastructure projects. So we want to continue to maintain that rating, and we want to make sure that our long-term financial plan is helping drive those decisions. Okay, we want to release our 5-year capital plan. That makes sure we have a response to our infrastructure, equipment, and maintenance needs for the long term. We want that plan to be incorporated with our 5-year plan. We want a plan that's sustainable and attainable for our long-range financial plan, but also that can be buy-in from departments and boards, because they know once something makes it in the plan, it's a true plan and it's something that can happen, and maybe someone is okay waiting a couple extra years for their project to happen because they understand the whole picture of what's going on around them. We want to have a unified plan so we don't have any things that pop up that haven't been on the plan. We want to make sure that we're accounting for everything that's on our inventory of equipment for our infrastructure. And there's philosophy centers around the planning process to help avoid those unexpected or unplanned funding. So quickly, I'll go over, again, I know you have a very detailed report, and you've all already reviewed it, so I'll go over a couple of budgets, just some highlights on budgets that didn't fit by themselves singularly under the guideline, but as a whole, the budget did fit under the guideline. So a couple things to consider here. There's a couple of them are smaller budgets. A department that doesn't have much personnel, so as those personnel are going through their contracted wages, either with steps or wage adjustments, that can put their budget over what the guideline is. That's the case, and you'll see the Human Resource Department is over the guideline, but again, that's because it's a small department, has 2 people that are going through the salary scale, they have steps, it's going to put them over the guideline. Same for planning. Council on Aging. We're going to do that one in the next couple of slides. That's the only budget where we're actually asking for an increase in the FTE, so I'll spend some slides on that after this. The assessors is something where, again, it's a small department. There's only a few staff in there. They have a new software edition that's coming out that we have to upgrade to, and there's going to be some one-time costs for implementation and training on that. So we expect that it's over guidelines this year, but we don't expect that to happen again next year. So simple one like the town clerk, there is more statewide. There's a statewide election this year. We only had to budget for 1 election this current year. Next year we have 3. We have our town election, we have a statewide primary, and then we have an election in November. So that looks like a big increase, but that's all it is. It's just that one line that, depending on how many elections we have, that's what it's going to be. Planning is one of those budgets I talked about where it's just people working through their way through the salary. Library is the same. There's a lot of staff at the library as they work their contractual salaries in there, and the library has one other nuanced piece where their supplies and materials are required to increase at a certain level in order to keep their statewide library certification close enough, Mike said. Recreation is another one. They're another one that has a little bit of a change in FTE, it looks like in the book, but what it is a reallocation of some staff. They have have some staff that was retiring. They're reordering that position in order to do something else, but that will also absorb some of the folks that would be normally paid from seasonal or part-time are now going to be part of that position. So it may look like there's a small FTE increase there, but it's revenue neutral, and because we don't account for seasonal and part-time in our FTE count, it looks like there's an increase, but there's really not, because it's going to be made up through those decreases. So the next one is with COA. Since it's the only one that there really is an FTE increase, we thought we should do some slides for this. Thank you. So what are we doing? We're asking. What are we asking for? We're asking for a 0.42 FTE increase for next year. You know, why are we doing it? The director is retiring in the summer of 2027. There's no real succession plan in place in that department. There's no assistant director in that department. Many of our other departments or any of the bigger retirements that we've had over the last few years, we've had someone in place sort of learning on the job and was the second in charge that sort of took over. We don't have that there. So the Council on Aging, we're proposing to hire a new director midway through the year, some point next winter, or after the first of the year, so they can provide significant transition planning with the existing director, and then work with them to get fully acclimated, so when that person retires, they're really in lockstep. Just some of the stats about our senior center. You can see, you can't really see the highlights, but we're at the top of the list as far as percent of the population over 65 for our comparable districts. And then we're, close to the top, but not at the top in FTE supporting. So you'll see we have just over 8 FTE supporting our almost 6,000 population over 65. With the proposal of this increase of bringing on someone halfway through the year to be able to transition with the current director, you'll see that we'll hop one place instead of being 5th from the top, we'll be 4th from the top. You can see that this is just some data on, this is the outreach that happens at the COA. It's kind of just a snapshot of what was happening before COVID about caseloads over there to now. You can see what it was just last calendar year. So again, what this is our chance to get someone on board, have the transition period. There's an added FTE for sure. It's half of the year. The logical question is what happens next year? Does this go away? Maybe. Could we be standing here next year saying, we have a new director, a new COA director, and they really think we need to have an assistant director, and it's something we've lacked over a long period of time, then maybe we're asking for another half FTE, or maybe that person gets on and says, we don't need an assistant, we need help in the area of outreach or programs, and maybe we're asking for repurposing the FTE that we added this year into those areas, or possibly we're saying we don't need that FTE anymore and we have a decrease. We won't know until next year. We need to get that new person in, get them acclimated on how the program works over there, and then be able to make that decision. So accommodated accounts, just want to talk a little bit about accommodated accounts. I think everybody knows what they are. There's a long description in your budget book that tells you exactly what they are, but just want to give you just a quick overview of these are accounts that are undistributed, so they're not budgeted in one department's budget because they're volatile or too big that small changes in those lines would crush a department's budget. So we try to put a little bit of a dot next to those that we talk about every year, the big hitters or the ones that are historically the cost generators in there. You can see health insurance, it's our biggest line, it's our biggest single line in our budget. You can see 9%. May seem like a lot. If you were to ask other managers of towns or mayors from around here, they would be excited to have that number. They oftentimes have, each year have double-digit increases in their health insurance. We've been lucky over the last 4 out of the last 6 years, we've had low single-digit increases in our health insurance line. I think this is probably going to be the more typical for the next few years. This is probably going to be the number that we're landing at. It's just the way it works. We were low for a long time, and now that's sort of catching up. Debt service, you can see, is the other one with the dot. It's 10%. We've been planning for this. We've been talking about this at the last few town meetings, talking about what's coming up in the budget. This number, what does it include? It includes the full cost of the police station borrowing in that number. Normally for us, we would short-term borrow for a project for a couple of years. Because of the police station, bids came back with significant savings, and because we used $5 million of free cash at a year ago, January's town meeting, to pre-fund that, we were able to decrease the bonding costs and take advantage of borrowing that cost. Now, what does that also includes the first year or the phase-in of the Fox Hill. So it does include about a quarter, 30% of what we're going to borrow for the Fox Hill is in that on a band. So that first phase of phasing the Fox Hill is in there too. The reason we highlight the Middlesex retirement is because it's a big number. It's $16 million. The increase is going to be between 6.5% and 8% until that is fully funded. So that is a big, it eats up a lot of our every year. Regional schools is sort of new this year, but it won't end this year. You can see a big number there for Shawsheen. What that has to do with is last year the state changed the acceptance or the way they're allowed to accept students at regional vocational schools to just a lottery system. So Burlington had traditionally had about 30-something kids in each class up there, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Now we're going to have 54 kids as our seat allotment. We're going to have 54 kids in all 4 classes over the next few years. So we're going to see a similar increase, might not be that exact number, but we'll see an increase due to enrollment for at least for the next 3 years. Another one is regional non-member. Looks like a big number. That's just basically how many kids we have enrolled. Last year, we had very few kids. We had 2 kids at Essex. We had none at Minuteman. Next year, those same 2 kids are at Essex. 3 new kids got accepted and decided to go to Essex, and we also have 1 at Minuteman. For many years, or the last 5 years anyway, Minuteman wasn't accepting any non-member students, so we didn't have to budget for anybody at Minuteman, but now we do have 1 there. And there's 1 that's not highlighted there that usually is, because we had a pretty good year this year, is with special education tuition and transportation, is normally where we make or break the accommodated accounts. This year, that's why we were able to make it. We had a very good year where the school department worked really hard to keep that number down. Mr. Moderator, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Lawler, if you don't mind, to do the capital improvement plan slides.
Certainly.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the capital improvement program portion of our presentation. So, as the town administrator mentioned, we released and developed our FY27 to FY2031 capital improvement program. It's part of your budget book, part of the materials that have been sent to you, and part of the articles that we'll talk about later today. And it's in accordance with the September 2025 bylaw that this body passed related to development and release and presentation of our 5-year capital plan. And so really what this is about is creating that unified and collaborative process that is also metric driven. It is tied back to a percentage of budget, and it also relies on a variety of funding sources in order to have that sustainable plan. So what are capital expenses really? Those are the expenses related to the improvements to municipal spaces, infrastructure improvements, equipment, vehicles, technology. And we rely on 3 funding sources: debt service, operating capital, or what we'll call raise and appropriate, and then free cash. And the graphic to the right is just an illustration of how we get to our integrated capital financing plan. The ultimate goal is to take our existing debt service, our new debt service for those bonded projects, and the raise and appropriate capital, and that brings us to our debt and operating capital plan, which we target to be 12% of town and school operating. You'll notice in the next slide that that'll take us about 2 years to get to based on the projects that we're funding out of the capital improvement program. In addition to that, we rely on free cash for pay-as-you-go projects, most of what you see under Article 3. The goal there is 20% of our certified free cash, and together that brings us our integrated capital plan. The next slide is really just an illustration, not expecting everybody to be able to digest this table, but an illustration that shows the framework that will really guide us for our capital spending. So all of these metrics are tied back to our long-range financial plan, and it makes sure that we are spending to the target and that we're spending in a way that is consistent with the framework that we've set out. And you can see this year we are under the goal as intended to make capacity for future years as we bring in the Fox Hill borrowing. We are also consistent with the percentage of the tax levy that is devoted to debt service between 6 and 8% throughout the out years and this year. And in addition, we meet our free cash goal at about 19.82% with a goal of 20%. So we will talk a lot more about all of these articles later on, but I wanted to give you all sort of a preview of what the articles will be doing as far as from the funding source. So we'll talk about them from articles, and in this presentation we talk about them from funding source. So we will have 3 articles related to general fund borrowing, to projects funded from debt service, and these are all infrastructure projects. As I mentioned, we have a funding source from raise and appropriate or operating capital, and I think this is an area that we'll see more investment in over the next several years as we look to sort of solidify this as a funding source and provide more investment right from the levy into some of our capital. Again, the idea is really to just continue to develop the multiple funding sources in order to have that sustainable plan. Our projects from free cash that we'll see in Article 3 later on tonight. We, just as a heads up on some of these, the type of projects that we're funding from free cash, 5 vehicles will be requested for funding, about $1 million in water infrastructure, $500,000 in public space improvements, and $1.7 million in school improvements, and then several other smaller requests as well. Again, we'll talk about these projects at length under Article 3. And this is just page 2. And then finally, is our projects funded by enterprise funds. So enterprise funds, which we will talk about later in the meeting under Article 20, much more. Enterprise funds are funds dedicated to services that we provide that we generate a fee from. So in this case, sewer. You have a sewer bill, we collect those funds for the business-like activity for that, and then we're able to fund capital out of that as well. So we'll see more of that, not necessarily this year or next year, but in the next several years as our, hopefully upon town meeting's approval, our water and sewer enterprise fund and the capital that will be funded from that in order to best capture and understand the costs related to those services. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, members.
Okay, we'll open it up for 15 minutes of questions. Ms. Simons.
Martha Simon, Precinct 3. I have a question about the Council on Aging. I had noticed that there was the 0.4 something FTE increase, but on page 99 of the operating budget, it has total salaries increasing by $86,000, and I just was hoping you could explain that big jump.
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So in total, the salaries are going up $86,000. A big portion of that, or 42. Just over $42,000 of that would be to allow us funds to be able to hire that second director. Our goal is to post the job in January, get someone on board, and have them have several months working with the existing director. So that's a big chunk of that. The rest of it would be folks that wage adjustments or step increases for the staff.
Ms. Huntoon.
Thank you. Michelle Huntoon, Precinct 1. So a lot of surrounding towns and cities throughout the state have been making the news lately because they're in these budget crises and having to pass overrides just to keep their libraries open, lots of layoffs, towns that are getting to a point where they can't pay for trash pickup, they're taking extracurriculars away from their entire school system. And we're seeing all these increases across the budget, and our taxes are going up and limited by Prop 2.5. What steps are we taking to avoid finding ourselves in that situation?
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So that's a good question, and that goes back to what I talked about, how we use our long-range financial plan as our guidepost. So I don't think I said the words, but we started this year with about $15 million under Prop 2.5, and that's sort of our gauge as we look out in our 5 and longer than that term plan. We keep an eye on where that excess capacity level is and how close we're going to come to being up against Proposition 2.5. We've been lucky here for a long time to have such a vibrant commercial base, and it's been, a good thing for us and kept us in business for a long time. But, $15 million is a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money because it is a lot of money, but that could go fast. So I think your question is, what are we doing? And that's what drives us every year is what does the year 5 look like? Is that a negative number at the bottom? It's one of the reasons we took the step to try to, I don't want to say scale back, but change our operating budget guidelines from a 4.5 increase in our operating budgets to 4.25, and hopefully continue to do that. So that's one of the main steps that's being taken.
Mr. Pearson, please.
Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. On the capital budget, I have a question about the format. And what happens is that there is a, let's see, I thought I had it here. There is money for planning design at Simons Park. And that has a number of, where do they have this? Where's the Simons Park? Improve, no. Honest people, damn. Sorry. Design services. And they're talking about, oh, here it is. Simons Park design. And it has $200,000 for that. And it doesn't have anything in the rest of the 5-year projection past that. So it makes it look like it is a $200,000 commitment. But in truth, there is on another part of the budget under bonding, which is on page 143, Under bonding, you see that if we were to go ahead and renovate Simons Park using that design money, that we would then spend $4 million in fiscal year 28. And I understand that there is a way in which having things that are bonded put together in one group is fine. But I think it's a little misleading for us here in town meeting. We need to see that $200,000 that we would approve of this year will lead to $4 million in another year or two. And so it would be helpful if there was some way in which the budget indicated that, because we all know that when you give design money to a department, that you come back with a plan that costs a lot more money based on what that design is. And so I think that it's important that town meeting be able to understand what it's getting into when it approves money for designs. And I came to this because I question whether or not we want to spend $4 million on renovating Simons Park. And I wouldn't have realized that that's what we were getting into just by looking at the $200,000 design figure. So I think that it's a little misleading to have it be set up that way.
Mr. Lawler.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Pearson. Yes, so you're correct. Those 2 pages, or those 3 pages, are set up by funding source, and so that's how it fits in there. Certainly the intent is not to mislead, but to organize it in a way that might make sense to a municipal finance person like myself, but not often am I putting that lens on of what town meeting might see it exactly. So I think in the future, maybe a footnote that directs it back to that page might be helpful, or we can call it design, then construction, or whatever it may be in the future years. But I think that, the goal within the backup is to hopefully show all of those costs so that you see the design funds, and then the next year you see the construction funds and the capital sheets that we are using. So we try to make it make sense as many places as we can, but we're always looking for feedback and improvements on how to do that, so we appreciate that.
Go ahead, Bob.
Excuse me, Bob Young, Precinct 3. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I also wanted to talk about the COA Assistant Director position. But before that, I do want to thank John Denizio. I've reached out to John a lot and asked a lot of questions, and if he was being paid hourly, he'd probably get a lot of overtime, but thank you. But I've already expressed this to him. I heard, because I'm a member of the COA, I'm an active person in the COA, and I help the COA. And so there are things in this budget that people will like, and it might be difficult, but I think we're going to need to make difficult decisions on things that we have a great interest in. But this particular position, I reached out because I didn't see any backup whatsoever. I heard something around town or over at the COA that this might be happening. And I actually brought it up at the boot camp the other night. But there was really no backup whatsoever. And I have been concerned and mentioned this to many people, town meeting members and administration, constant new hires for new positions. And with all due respect, I don't trust the process. If this goes through, there will be an assistant director, there will be a director. And so if people are concerned, as I am, about new positions, what are these acronyms? It's still a person, it's still a salary, it's still a pension, and it's benefits. And it just seems to be constant. And as it's noted, there's never been an assistant in this department. So in these times, as this person just pointed out, I think we need to make some tough decisions, and I'm leaning towards this not being something that I could support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any further questions? We won't worry about Ms. Kim.
Christine Kim, Precinct 4. I was just wondering, in the capital plan, why curriculum is under a capital plan versus operating? Thank you.
Can we get a microphone up the back for Dr. Conti, please?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Every so often, different curricula are reviewed, and it's in the capital warrant because the initial purchase of materials is very expensive. The ongoing costs, the consumables, will be moved into the operating budget. So moving forward. So that happened last year with our K-5 adoption of a new literacy program. Again, the initial purchase is expensive and was a capital warrant that you all supported. Thank you. The consumables then were moved into the operating budget moving forward, and that's what's happening. This is for grades 7 through 8.
And you both on? All right. All right, we'll get this straightened away yet. Thank you, Dr. Conti. We have time for another question. Ms. Fustacci, yes.
Joanne Fristacci, Precinct 3. Through the moderator to Mr. Danuzzi, could you, for the benefit of the new members, explain when a department head announces a retirement, what the bump up to the salary is? And could you, for all the benefit of all of us, explain how many other towns continue to practice that? Thank you.
Mr. Danuzio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As far as how many other towns, I don't know. I could look it up, but I don't know today. Basically what happens is as someone is approaching their retirement date, for those that are in the administrative and professional union, they do what's called the transitional advisor, and they work with someone on a transition plan for the last 18 months of that they're in the job. The idea is that they're being able to do some knowledge transfer in creating standard operating procedures and policies for their position when they move on. So it's called the transitional advisor. It exists in the administrative and professional comp plan.
Ms. Fustacci, follow up?
Could you please tell us how much that is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 10%.
So when someone announces their retirement for the 18 months following that, they have a 10% salary increase, correct?
Yes, it could be. If the person has been here for a certain amount of years, then they would be eligible for it. I think it's around the 20-year mark.
Okay, and follow up. We're not aware of whether we're alone in this practice or whether a lot of other towns are still doing this or do this in their contracts.
I'm not aware.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, that wraps up our question period. We'll move on to dealing with operating budgets. Yes, Ms. Saltzman.
Is it on? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltzman, Precinct 2. How many wonderful town meeting members of our 126 have signed in tonight?
104.
Nikki, you won the bet. Thank you.
Mr. Lieber, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Blaze Lieber, Precinct 6. I just want to, do we have to swear in the new?
Yes, we do. That's coming up now.
Sorry.
I put it up on screen. If we could have the new members please stand Everybody can stand if you'd like to join them. We get everybody sworn in at once. So you're going to raise your right hand and start at the beginning. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially Thank you very much.
Yes, and now officially welcome to town meeting. Okay, now Mr. Davison from the Ways and Means Committee to comment on operating budgets. And is this microphone working better now?
Hello. Thank you. Just a brief introduction and update, especially for the new people, with regards to the operating budget and all of the financial articles that you're going to see. So Ways and Means started meeting on this budget on February 11th. We met weekly until this past Wednesday, with a couple of exceptions. Each departmental budget and each warrant article that you hear tonight was first reviewed by a subcommittee. At that time, members of the entire committee can submit questions and just kind of give the department heads and the subcommittee a heads up. This is what I'm going to be interested in. Once it's been heard by the subcommittee, they appear before the full Ways and Means Committee, and at that time, any questions that are still unresolved are asked and hopefully answered. The votes that I report on tonight are a result of this long process. So you're going to notice, and many make note, that most of our votes and approvals are unanimous. Please know that that's not a rubber stamp. It comes after questions, concessions, changes, sometimes postponement of votes until we get clarification or changes. It is certainly our goal to bring a unanimous vote to this body to make it easier for you. We're fortunate that we have excellent financial professionals working for the town. They develop a very clean budget, and they are good about staying within the guidelines, and I appreciate that. The schools, the town came in a little bit under guidelines, as Mr. Denizio reported. The schools came in at guidelines. Our accommodated account budgets came in slightly below, so all of those are good things, and they're in many cases the result of hard work, and it's appreciated. As you look at the budget, just understand that a significant portion of the budget is personnel and personnel expenses, and those are driven by contractual agreements through union negotiations. It's not easy to change, and it's difficult to make large decreases or large cuts in our operating budget. I also would like this year for you to just acknowledge and know that we say it a lot, but I want you to really think about it. More than 60% of our budget is paid for by our commercial properties. I would ask that throughout the process, with each expenditure we vote, that you divide it by 3, because that's the number that the residents and the people in this room and the residents of the town are responsible for through their property taxes. The other 2/3 of that is our commercial base. And I say that because many of our businesses are struggling right now. And I'm asking for that consideration when you decide where to shop, where to go out to eat. Promote Burlington. Try to spend your money in Burlington, because those businesses, then that money comes back to us, and it's important, and it really will help. New growth is extremely important for the next few years. Mr. Denizio, talked about new growth briefly. New growth is the lifeblood of our low taxes, and so when you hear, and I don't believe we have any tonight, but over the year, when we hear requests from our commercial owners and businesses for zoning changes, for anything that may help their business do better, really keep that in mind, that it's going to be very important to us as a residential community if we want to keep our taxes low, which they are. It doesn't feel like it, but just look at the surrounding communities, with the exception of Woburn. Our property tax rate is much lower, and it's because of our commercial base, and so we really need to pay attention to that. And let's work together to protect that tax base over the next several years, because they're hurting and we need them. We encourage you to ask questions, express your thoughts about the budget, with one notable exception, which we will discuss at the time. We recommend passage of the FY27 operating budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Now we will move on to the operating budget. The way we do this is as what's called a consent article, where I will go through each budget, note its note the allocation, note the percent increase, Ways and Means vote, Select Board vote, and I will go through each budget that way. For those that you wish to discuss further, please say hold, and we will pull them out. For those that are not held, we will tally up the total for those items, and we will vote them as one lump sum. And then we will go back and discuss the items that were held. Is that clear enough? Any questions on that? Okay. Department 113, Town Meeting and Reports, $30,435, increase of 1.87%. Ways and Means vote 1400, Select Board vote 400. Department 119, Legislative Committees, $11,017, 0% increase. Ways and Means vote 1300. Department 112, Select Board / Town Administrator, allocation of $1,186,860, a 3.06% increase. Ways and Means voted 1300 in favor. Select Board vote 400. Department 135, Town Accountant, budget of $585,061, increase of 3.57%. Ways and Means vote 1300. Select Board vote 301. Department 141, Assessors, budget of $537,598, an increase of 8.31%. Ways and Means supported this 1400. Department 145, Treasurer Collector, a budget of $814,202, an increase of 0.56%. Ways and Means supported this 1400. Select Board voted 500. Okay, in Department 49, we have a number of separate line items that we will look at. Central Administration operating budget, $175,000. Increase of 0%. Ways and Means supported this 10-0-0. Select Board 5-0-0. Unemployment line, $105,000, 5% increase. Ways and Means voted 11-0-0. Select Board voted 5-0-0. Chapter 32B, Employee Benefits, $20,180,017, an increase of 9%. Ways and Means voted 9 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstentions. Select Board voted 5-0-0 in favor. Medicare, $1,627,500, an increase of 5%. Ways and Means supported this 11-0-0. Select Board voted 5-0-0. Other post-employment benefits, $1,329,816, an increase of 9.3%. Ways and Means supported this 11-0-0. Select Board's vote was 5-0-0. Hold. Okay. Town insurance, workers' comp, $1,700,000, an increase of 0%. Ways and Means voted 11-0-0 in favor. Select Board voted it unanimously 5-0-0. Financial services, $73,500, an increase of 5%. Ways and Means voted 11-0-0. Select Board voted 5-0-0 in favor. Department 151, the legal budget, $230,000, 0% increase. Ways and Means supported this 13-0-0. Select Board voted 4-0-0. Department 152, Human Resources, a budget of $276,607, 5.74% increase. Ways and Means voted 13-0-0, and the Select Board voted 4-0-0 in favor. Department 155, Technology, $946,751. How did I say that? $946,751, an increase of 3.32%. Ways and Means supported it unanimously 14-0-0, and the Select Board also 5-0-0. Department 161, Town Clerk, $573,353, 14.32% increase. Ways and Means supported it 13-0-0. Department 162, Board of Registrars, a budget of $17,150, 0% increase. Ways and Means supported it 13-0-0. Department 171, Conservation, a budget of $335,672, an increase of 4.09%. Ways and Means supported this 13-0-0, and the Select Board voted 4-0-0 in favor. Department 175, Planning, $485,245, 4.41% increase. Ways and Means supported it 1300. Hold on planning. Department 176, Board of Appeals, $13,731, 0% increase. Ways and Means supported as 1400. Department 192, Town Facilities, $102,440, an increase of 1.77%. Ways and Means voted 1300 in favor. The Select Board voted 500 in favor. Department 210, Police Department, budget of $11,147,087, a 2.42% increase. Ways and Means supported this 1500. Select Board vote was 500. Hold on Police. Department 220, Fire Department, a budget of $10,497,535, a 1.69% increase, supported by Ways and Means 1500 and by the Select Board 500. Department 241, Building Department, $784,054, a decrease of 0.32%, supported by the Select Board 1400 and the, Ways and Means 1400 and the Select Board 500. Department 244, Sealer of Weights and Measures, $18,392, a 3.15% increase. Ways and Means supported this 1300 and the Select Board voted 400. Department 291, there's another of individual line items. Oh no, excuse me, never mind. Department, I'm looking ahead. Department 291, Energy Management, $13,600, 0% increase. Ways and Means vote 1500. Select Board vote 500. Okay. Department 300. We'll vote local education and special education separately. Local education, $70,474,253, an increase of 4.25%. Ways and Means voted 1101 in favor. Special education, $16,835,321, a 3.5% increase. Ways and Means supported this 1300. All right, was there a hold on that or not? Department 301, item 56, Shawsheen Assessment, $3,906,349, an increase of 27.28%. Ways and Means voted 4 in favor, 8 opposed. We will hold that one. Essex and Minuteman Assessment, $165,000, an increase of 101.61%. Ways and Means supported at 1300. Okay, Public Works. And there's a number of separate items under this department. We'll vote them separately. Public Works operating budget of $12,701,184, an increase of 4.11%. Ways and Means supported this 1400. Select Boards voted 500 in favor. Hold on Public Works. Trash removal. Item 60. $3,664,662, a 7.06% increase. Ways and Means supported this 1400. Select Board 500. Item 61, streetlights, $356,375, a decrease of 1.14%, supported 1400 by Ways and Means and 500 by the Select Board. Item 62, DEP drinking water assessment, $15,000. 0% increase, supported by the Ways and Means 1400, Select Board 500. Okay, the Board of Health, and we also have a couple items will be voted separately on this one. Board of Health operating budget of $650, a 4.42% increase, supported by Ways and Means 1300. Item 66, hazardous waste collection, $55,000, an increase of 10%, supported by Ways and Means 1300. Item 67, mosquito control, $50,700, 0% increase. Ways and Means voted 1300 in favor. Department 541, Council on Aging, $620,094, an increase of 16.29%. I heard a hold on that. Is that correct? $543, veterans, a budget of $308,665, an increase of 0.22%, supported by Ways and Means 1400 and the Select Board 500. Department 549, Youth and Family Services, $625,795, a 0.59% increase. Ways and Means voted at 1400 in favor. Select Board voted 500 in favor. Hold on Youth and Family Services. Department 590, Disability access, $11,439, an increase of 0.53%. Supported 1400 by Ways and Means and 500 by the Select Board. Library, Department 610, $2,095,212, a 5.75% increase. Supported by Ways and Means 1300. Recreation, Department 630/631, $2,486,331. Hold on recreation. 691, Historical Commission, $9,205, a reduction of 11.74%, supported unanimously by Ways and Means Committee. Department 710, Debt Service, $10,407,163. A 10.13% increase. 1100 Ways and Means, 500 Select Board. Okay, 115, the Ways and Means Reserve Account. $200,000, a decrease of 33.33%, supported by Ways and Means 1100. Department 901, Middlesex Retirement, $16,222,772, an increase of 6.65%. Ways and Means supported this 1100, Select Board 500. Was that a hold? Please speak up. Thank you. Department 900, negotiated settlements, $745,000, an increase of 213.27%, supported by Ways and Means 1100 and Select Board 500. Okay, I've got a hold on that. Local transportation, $250,000, an increase of 66.67%. Ways and Means supported this 1200. Select Board supported this 500. Last item here, Department 903, capital improvements, $700,000. A 0.0% increase. Select Board voted 500. Ways and Means supported this 1400. Okay. As soon as we get a number on what hasn't been held, we'll vote on it.
This one right here. 43243,509.
Yes. Can we vote on this, please? 43509. All right. Okay, what we have in front of us for our partial article number 2 is $43,243,509 to pay for the budgets that weren't held. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Those budgets are passed. Now, Myrna, you want your Myrna minute a little early? All right, we can take a Myrna minute. We have 5 minutes, and then we'll start again and go back to the budgets that were held. Okay, we're going to go back to the budgets that were held. We'll start with Department 149, item 18, other post-employment benefits. Someone have a question on that? Mr. Pearson. Go ahead.
Mike.
I can't hear you. There we go.
Point of privilege, Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. Mr. Moderator, would you please facilitate our following the action here by telling us what page the budget that we're discussing is on, so it helps us flip through this huge document?
Well, I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, I know this is 48, but I mean...
I'll do my best for you, Monty.
Thank you.
All right, who had a question on this? Mr. Pearson, you have a question on this?
Through the moderator, Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. Since this allocation of $1 million, which is a lot of money, is based on the recommendation of a private body that has no public, transparency, and it is a relatively arbitrary figure that we are putting into a fund. I'd like to know why there was a 9% increase in it.
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Pearson, there was a very public process that happened about 8 or 9 years ago when we first started funding OPEB, and the plan was decided upon then with the actuary and a group of folks, many from this body, that came up with the funding plan and picked a time of 2047 to be fully funded. There is no requirement for us to fund this. It's just a good practice, and it's getting ahead of a liability that's out there. But that was a very public process, and the 9.3% increase annually was decided on by that group, and this is the 8th or 9th time that's happened. Will we be able to keep it up forever? Maybe not, but we're sticking to the plan for now.
I just don't understand the reasoning for this particular thing, which has no particular impact right at this moment, why it's not being funded at the same increase that everybody else is going through for the town budget.
Mr. Monaco, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank Monaco, Precinct 4, Ways and Means, and I and a few other people led the charge, it's about a decade ago, I don't remember, to figure out how to handle a liability called post-employment benefits.
Yes.
And there was major concern throughout this body, and even at Ways and Means, that that liability would only grow if we didn't figure out a way to proactively finance it. And that's what we did. We spent a couple of years, we had a bunch of meetings, and we put a program in place. And that amount is actuarially based on what we think the liability will grow to be, what it would take to pay it down, and the pay down period is actually governed somewhat by good practice in law. So the 9.3% actually reflects what we think it would take on an annual increase to close the deficit, to close the debt. And there's a crossover point. It's out a few more years, and then it will really begin to come down. It's not arbitrary. It's actuarial. And we get a lot of credits in terms of bond ratings, et cetera, for having such a good program. And we fund it because we choose to, because it's a liability. It'll never go away unless we pay it down. If you don't want to fund it, vote against it. Go ahead.
Okay, I will.
I think you'd be crazy to do that, though. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes?
Betsy Hughes, Precinct 7. I have a question about that from the benefits perspective. One of the ways to reduce the overall cost is to reduce the benefits that we're promising to people in the future, and realizing you can't back out of promises already made. I just am wondering if there's been an effort to study what kind of changes can be made over time, and if there's a plan, like we do the 5-year plan strategically, if there's a plan for what we can do to reduce this cost as we go forward. Thank you.
Mr. Lawler.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Ms. Hughes. Yes, this is something that we spend a considerable amount of time talking about and spending a lot of resources thinking about how to address health insurance benefits, but also the cost for our retiree health insurance as well. And it's a real strong balance between changing benefits and ensuring that we are providing benefits that are consistent with Mass General Law, that are consistent with what folks are what we're comparing, how we compare ourselves to the benefits that we provide. That's a component of our recruitment and retention, and obviously, ultimately, the provision of town services from that. So we do spend a lot of time on that, and it's particularly with OPEB and understanding what the impact would be for benefit changes for retirees. That's obviously a population that is in a different financial situation in most cases than our current employees, so we sort of have a balance there into understanding those benefits. And when it comes to the retiree area, it's mostly the changes can be made for the retiree premium splits for those Medicare supplement plans that we fund through this. And considerable work has been brought to bring that population down to lower contributions from the town side. But it is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about, and it is a balancing act as far as the benefits that we have to provide to have high quality employees, and also ensuring that we are meeting taxpayer concerns about how much we're spending in this area. So a long answer, as usual, to yes, we are spending a lot of time thinking about that.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? The motion carries. We'll move on to the next held budget. Department 175, Planning. Good, 65. I can go there too. Who had a question on it? Yes, Ms. Wang.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Oh, hey, Liz, can you explain municipal expenses, local travel? I just wondering whether this was just like a new membership or conference or training or mileage gas, because I just see a jump from like 2024, 1,500 then to 4,000, then, sudden to 10,000.
Yes.
I don't need it.
Well, it didn't increase from, the increase for 2027 is not zero. It's actually a decrease.
So for my melt budget, I think that we just haven't been spending as much.
So if I may, for Ms. Bonventry, so last year the budget for melt was 10,506. This year it's 10,000. Are we missing? And then the previous years, the actual spending 1,539 and 4,273. We're talking in the same line, right? So that's not necessarily the amount that was budgeted in those years. That's the actual that was spent. So the planning department didn't spend their full budget in those years, and this year has requested that $10,000 budget again. So you're asking what is composed of that $10,000? So there's, based on the request from the planning department, $4,000 for the American Planning Association Conference, $1,500 for professional memberships, $3,000 for conferences, and then the rest for board and staff travel. Sorry for misunderstanding the question. Thank you.
Anything further on that? Seeing nothing? All those oops, there we go. I see the cane with the white flag.
As requested. Mr. Moderator.
Hold on, Mimi. You can sit down, but you need the microphone.
Thank you. I hope you noticed the white towel per your suggestion. I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Sang was saying. As I understood her, she was asking if the actual expenditures in 2024 were only at the $1,500 mark, why does it jump to a request of $10,000, even though I think we understand that it's $506 less in the request than well, actually, no, that's looking at 1027. So it jumps from 4,273 to 10,506. And I understand that you were explaining the breakdown, but if you don't actually use that much, why are you still asking for it? That's the question. Thank you.
Mr. Davison, please.
So I guess
Hold on, Liz, please. Mr. Davison, wait till you're recognized. Mr. Davison, please.
Thanks again. I would just interject from a Ways and Means standpoint. When we look at budgets like this, we don't hold them strictly to what their previous requests were, because what we try not to get into is departments that feel like, oh wow, I've got $5,000 left this year and I better spend it or they won't give it to me next year. So we ask our departments to budget what you think you may spend You don't have to spend it. We're not going to take it away. It does end up coming back to free cash. So a percentage of what you see in free cash that we're going to vote on buying tractors and dump trucks with is money that was not spent in previous year's budget. And again, we're trying not to get into that cycle where then the department heads feel like we better spend every penny or we're not going to get it next year. So from a Ways and Means standpoint, that would be why we don't drill down sometimes on those numbers.
Does that answer the questions? Mimi?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on this? All right. All those in favor of this budget? Thank you. Opposed? Budget passes. Okay, we're next. All right. Department 210, I've been told it's page 72. For police. Who had a question on it? Yes, Ms. Wang.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Z Wang, person 5. Overtime. So I have a question regarding the ICE protest. Like our policemen sent to, I think as far as I know, are like a local residents protest on Wednesday only. Then now it seems that every day there's a protest of people from outside the town. And then when we send a police force to there, like how many do we send? And depends on the population or depends on how many were the numbers of protesters or what. And then are these all paid like overtime or we're just paid a regular pay? Depends on, how it's scheduled. Thank you.
Chief Brown, please.
Mr. Martin, thank you. So the protests have basically grown from going every Wednesday to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then some offshoots where we've had them go into businesses and hotels on Friday and Saturday nights. So they're unpredictable in that sense. How we man them as best we can through manning that's already assigned to the shifts. And there are times where we've had to bring in officers on overtime to supplement, and sometimes we will see details being hired through national development and or the Burlington Mall. So it kind of all depends on what we have facing us during the individual day, but all options are on the table.
Mr. Stacci.
Joanne Fristacci, Precinct 3. As a resident, I have always felt well served by the police department in Burlington. And in the past year, I've probably had about 50 opportunities to observe the work that is being done on Wednesdays and Saturdays on District Avenue. And I want to thank the police for being even-handed and professional. I'm very proud of the work that you're all doing. I know that it's hard work, and I want to thank you all and support your budget.
Thank you.
Anything additional? Mr. Young.
Thank you, Bob Young, Precinct 3. I'd like to echo what my colleague just said, Joanne Fristacci, very much so. Just two things. One, we noticed that the international soccer community is coming into Foxborough, and lots of towns are asking for help. I think, and I don't know yet, I haven't asked the chief, but if we are asking for help for whatever source it may be, not only the money, but the, pulling officers away from protecting the town, maybe we need to have something more coordinated. And the other thing I'm wondering, it's one thing to have sort of a protest here or there, but when it's coordinated, it has to be coordinated ongoing. Does anybody think that it would be wise that they may need a permit And I know sometimes if you're protesting at the White House, they'll say, you must protest over in this location. I know there's a few questions there, but again, thank you for what you do, the whole department. We really appreciate it, and I'm glad you're getting a new police station.
Well, Chief, you can comment on those, but Mr. Young, those really aren't budget impact questions. So I would like us to restrict our questions and comments to the operating budgets that are in front of us. Thank you. Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, so as far as the FIFA issue goes, Mr. Young, there has been nothing planning in terms of Burlington, in terms of our resources going to be used for anything FIFA. If anything changes, I'll certainly let town administration know, but at this point, there's nothing there. In terms of the protests, they are a coordinated protest at least every Wednesday. Some of the other ones kind of jump off at different times. But what I will say is that we do have a coordinated response under the police reform law to meet with any protest groups to coordinate and provide public safety, so we continue to do that. And as far as the permit, what I would say to that, at least my understanding is, that would go against or fly in the face of the First Amendment right to peacefully protest on public lands. However, we as law enforcement do have the right to put in reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions should we see fit for security. So we constantly adapt to those plans.
Thank you, Chief Brown. Anything further? Ms. Nash.
Mildred Nash, Precinct 3. I commend the way that this has been handled, and I do think that the Globe has given it some adequate coverage. But the one question that people keep asking me is there anything we can do, because what's going on there is a violation of our zoning bylaws, and I'm wondering if we could coordinate with other towns that have a similar process and get among those who see if we can't make our bylaws be upheld. This breaks the zoning that they came in under. I was at the town meeting when they came before us, and their proposition sounded as if they were asking us to support the tired and the poor of the world. And the chief of police and Kathy Hughes did it was Mike Esposito, I think. Somebody talked about how the chief of police had come and informed town meeting that what they were talking about sounded like a jail and we shouldn't have it. But it narrowly passed at that town meeting because people mistook this for something that was to help the immigrants that were
Mrs. Nash,
processed.
Could you please wrap it up? This is not a budget issue.
Right, okay. I'm just saying the question was, are we coordinating any kind of court?
That's not an issue. You're talking about a zoning issue, which is not a police issue.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. You tell the select board to put you on their agenda. Thank you. Anything on the police budget? See nothing. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Brings us to Local Education Department 300, page 82. Who had a question? I hear cowbells coming, but I didn't know they had anything to do with the town meeting tonight. Mrs. Nash.
Thank you. Mildred Nash, Precinct 3. I hadn't intended to speak tonight, and to speak twice in a row is not what I had intended to do, but and I love the fact that the town clerk let us pick up the warrants, so we saved $1,000. Penny saved is a penny and a half earned. But when I read the warrant, and it was as soon as I got it, I saw under the local budget that it said the school committee's recommended budget is attached for your review. And I had about 2 inches of material, and I went through it all, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So this was at the end of April. I called the town hall, and I had a talk with the town clerk and explained that I couldn't find it, and could she check on it? And she said she would, And then when I didn't hear anything, I called back because it was midweek before town meeting, and it turned out that the town clerk had come down with one of the things that means I should be wearing a mask tonight, but I'm not. And so she checked on it then, and what she did was posted it as online so that you could read it. And I said, I hope that you will make copies so that we can see them. And when I came tonight, there was at least a 5-inch pile on the table, but when I looked later, there were no copies. So I'm not sure how many of you actually saw the 48-page. I am worried when there are 48 pages to be looked at and you either don't get it till tonight on the table or you don't get it at all because you didn't see it online. Back many years ago, I went through my files back about, well, up through 2022, we used to get a 14-page pass out, which was helpful. It gives you all kinds of information comparing schools and relevant information. This one is beautiful, I have to say. It should have come out with everything else because it's worth admiring the artwork, just for starters, but it gives you so much information. My question is, why are we getting this so late? Because this is the biggest item on our budget, and we have no information until a couple of days before town meeting. So I hope someone can answer that question, and I hope it doesn't happen again because it's been late year after year, and this one I think was the latest of them all. So that's my question, and I'll sit down and leave it to you. I was going to say we should hold the account until we could look at the 48 pages. That's the will of the body. Think about it. Thank you.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Nash, thank you. The town meeting packet was sent, I think, on May 5th, and the budget document has been, the detailed budget document has been online and posted, I think, for months. So we've been working through a budget calendar, and we were asked to provide printed copies, which we did in the back of the room today. I think certainly, Ms. Nash, taking your feedback, if we need to print copies or hand them out, we can figure out how to make that happen for folks who don't, may not be able to print or read the electronic distribution. Here, I can, Patrick.
Follow up, Ms. Nash?
I just would like clarification because when I went online, I couldn't find anything till, I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday of this week, and I'm talking about the 48-page document. I don't think we should be expected to find something that's what the Ways and Means go through, which is more than we can really imagine. But it would be better to have 18 pages that we get in a timely fashion than 48 pages, which I suspect many people here haven't even seen yet. Thank you.
Further questions? Mr. Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. Just following up from Mrs. Nash. Is there any particular reason that we are still having to do this on a yearly basis? Why can't it go out with the warrant so that it's available to everybody instead of figuring out whether it's online or whether we're going to get it here after the fact, which is the night of voting? So can it be explained why it can't go to the town on time and be delivered to us along with all the backup material?
Dr. Conti.
Again, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Bell, we release a budget calendar, I think sometime in November or December. We have a lot of, there's a public hearing with the school committee that has to take place before the budget is adopted by the school committee. We just went to Ways and Means, I believe, last Wednesday. We can certainly try to work with all the different committees to make that happen more quickly. The documents, again, are posted online as we're working on them, and we did send the town meeting information to the town clerk's office to be distributed, so it wouldn't be something you would have to find. So I hope that it was distributed. Again, if the timing is frustrating, the last thing I want to do is frustrate you with timing. We can certainly work on getting you the information earlier. We are presenting, and the budget is evolving, as Mr. Davison said, throughout the entire process. So again, Ways and Means, our presentation of Ways and Means was last Wednesday, and we got the budget out to everyone, I think, right after that, the summary.
Thank you.
Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Betsy Hughes, Precinct 7. I know there's a lot of good information in this package that I picked up today, and there was some stuff sent electronically, but given the amount of the operating budget you're asking for, I would like to request that you do a presentation on that. I think most organizations that come to this body asking for money will do a presentation and identify specifically where it's going and how it's going to be used and what the alternatives are. And I don't feel like that is being done with this budget. And I want to support the schools, but I'm not going to give you guys a blank check. I can't do that because I represent the people in my community in our taxes. So I'd like to request that you, before we vote on this, you do a presentation on that operating budget. Thank you.
Dr. Conti.
Again, certainly the school committee, there was presentations to the school committee. There was a public hearing with the school committee. We can certainly, Mr. Moderator, if a presentation would be changed. Ways and Means Subcommittee has been working, going line by line through this. Those are public meetings as well. Ms. Hughes, again, certainly, I don't think this is a blank check request. There's been lots of detail put out to the community, and we've gone through this as publicly as we, as we have for decades. So again, we can certainly change the process. We can talk to the school committee about changing the process, but again, all these meetings have been public and available, as has the budget document for months.
Yes, Mr. Glantz.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. Couple of points here. So I get my materials online. I haven't gotten the printed materials in the last few meetings. I look at it on my laptop. And it was right there, right on the town clerk website. So I'm not sure, maybe an email or something with a link in the future, as well as, it sounds like there was a logistical mix-up as why the printout wasn't in there, or timing. We should fix that later for the people who can't use the online, for sure. But in looking at the document, I think it's fantastic, and I think it, I used to do the school budgets years ago, and this is way more information and way more detailed, and I think it's a very impressive combination. Perhaps a PowerPoint presentation like Mr. Dinizio did at the beginning of the meeting, maybe working in conjunction with him, that might be useful in future years, but I personally think we have plenty of information to go on. It is unfortunate if some people weren't able to obtain it, but I think it was a great, well put together, and I think it's got all the information we need. Thank you.
Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bob Young, Precinct 3. The list that was given where the public could go is all well and good, but part of that process is town meeting. And I want to echo what Betsy said. I'm quite surprised as she points out, this is by far the biggest budget, but we're not getting a presentation. So regardless of all the meetings that you went to, none of those committees or commissions or subcommittees actually vote on your budget. So if Dr. Conti or anyone else sitting at the table would like to share anything further than what you've written, I know I would personally appreciate it. And perhaps Betsy would, since she said it. And so that's how I feel, and I would think my constituents would appreciate it if they're watching online. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, do we have any questions on the budget? Ms. Wang?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's E1 Person 5. I tried to read the 228 pages school budget. It took me a while. I had a million questions. And so I would echo what Betsy said. I think if we have a, not even presentation, like reports, I really appreciate that. And well, we're talking about budget. So under school committee, page 1, well, your online budget, page 159, educational incentive. Why there was a jump from year 2025, 9,809. It's not on this booklet, it's online, unfortunately, sorry. To 2026, 50,000, and that, I think that's a big jump. Should I go over all my questions? Or one at a time?
Are you talking about a jump from 2024 to 2025?
No, 2025 to 2026. I just don't understand.
We're dealing with the 2027.
And then 2027 stayed at 50,000. I just don't know why there's this order. So other than that, I have a couple of more questions. Should I ask right now?
Well, let's go one at a time.
Okay.
Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I believe if I understand your question correctly, there was a $50,000 for educational incentive. That was bargained with the teachers union.
This is under school committee, right?
Yeah, we have to do tuition reimbursement, I think, for teachers. I believe is that what it is? So, if they take graduate courses that are approved, we reimburse them for that. So the union had bargained an increase in that amount.
Oh, that means every year from now on, it'll be similar or more, right? Like from 2027, 2028, will be continued.
Yeah, it's a benefit that they have in their contract, and to help them take graduate courses. All teachers in public education, public school teachers in Massachusetts are required to have a master's degree. So we help them achieve that if they haven't achieved that already.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of details in this 228 pages, but I think. If I may, I would respectfully suggest if going forward, you can add some more details in certain items, like say, again, under school committee, there's a postage for, I think there are only 2 items under that. One is like a meter lease, like 3,697. And then there's also bigger numbers like 48,705. This is page 165. So it would be more helpful for me, when I read at home. I know you guys have like a public meeting, whatever, but I work 60 hours a week. I don't have time to go to, so I can only read your online budget, And when I see that, I was like, what's this like a $48,000 postage for a school committee? If you can just give a little bit more details, in the online budget, I think it would be more helpful for us.
Dr. Conti.
Again, through the moderator, the 2 costs that you mentioned were for us to rent the postal machine for the entire district, and those are the postal costs for the entire district. So I think those are the lines that you mentioned, again, and we can certainly discuss with the school committee. Again, certainly I'd be more than willing to do a presentation if that's what people need us to do.
Okay, I was just wondering, most of the stuff now go paperless, like why do we still spend this much money for postage?
Through the moderator, not everyone can download, as we just learned, so we try to go as paperless as we can. We send a lot of information home to parents. We have a communication vehicle called Parent Square that we use because it also translates for families. So we try to send as much as we can electronically, but we also have things that we need to mail. So that's where the postage cost and the machine would come in.
Okay, yes, I wasn't too sure because it was specifically only under school committee. I thought that would be like the whole district. Okay, thanks. And then another example will be page 166, and there's a new ask for national conference for $10,000 since it's new, and it doesn't really explain what exactly for, who's going, Dr. Conti is going, or maybe the chair of a school committee is going, so I wasn't very clear with that either. Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you. That was a new conference for the business office. They rarely go to a conference, so this was a new request. We have limited conferences. That was one of the ways we got down to our guideline, but felt this was an important conference for the business office to go to learn about budgeting and maybe even presentations that other folks are doing to clarify a very complicated budget document.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I give all this example, just say, in the future, so next year, if you can just add a couple of sentences, it will be really helpful when I read it, from home or something. And my last question is regarding transportation costs. It's almost like 1.9 million a year now. So when I look at online, I just checked some a small school bus cost $100K to $120K. Standard bus type C will cost $105 to $150. Large ones type D will cost $120 to $180. And there's special configured a bus that will be $180 to $230. So I'm just wondering, we're paying this much for transportation. Have we done any a cost comparison between a contracted transportation versus we own our own fleet? Say if we get a, average bus $150,000 and we have 20 buses and then it's only $3 million, that's our 2 years budget for that. And then with hiring employee benefit, all this, it won't be too bad. But I was just wondering, because you probably know a lot more than me, why it's more beneficial to have a contractor, than own our own fleet.
Okay. Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the question. Our main transportation contract has been bid out. It comes before this body because it's a 5-year contract. It is a very expensive contract, and we have to go through a procurement process to, again, for the lowest bidder. We have not studied taking on our own transportation company. We can certainly do that when this contract is out. We're in year 3 of 5, so we still have 2 more years to go, but we could again, certainly look to do that. It's obviously be the cost of the buses and finding the employees, and which again, we would try to project all those costs and see how we could do. I think one positive with the transportation contract of late is Ms. Kasha negotiated made sure there was no fuel escalation clauses in the contract. So we're not paying additional costs as fuel prices go up. So again, I think that was a positive in a very expensive contract.
Thank you.
Mr. Pearson.
Through the moderator, Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. I would like to say that you don't have a mandate from town meeting to to bring in the buses into the school system. I really think that the idea of contracting out to a company that specializes in buses is much better than our town meeting having to buy 20 buses and then pay for all the employees and have them be part of the salary of the school and all of that. I can't imagine that is...
Mr. Pearson, that's not on the floor for debate. That's something they may look at 3 years from now. Thank you. We're not talking about it now.
Okay, well, we just
We're talking
did.
about
I thought we
this
just
year's
did.
budget, okay? This year's budget. I know that's a strange concept, but let's see if we can work on it. Mr. Campbell.
Chris Campbell, Precinct 1. For those of who don't know, I'm the chair of the Education Subcommittee on Ways and Means. So the vote was 10. There was an abstention. I was that abstention. I just want to have that opportunity to explain it. Usually we do that, and we're changing course here a little bit. So the purpose of my abstention, both in subcommittee and then in Ways and Means, comes from our allocation that is increasing at Shawsheen Tech. This is something we have asked for. This is something we have wanted because we continually have more applicants that they do have spots for. This year we're going up by roughly 24 spots. So we are going to have 24 less freshmen going into the high school. If we're doing cost per pupil funding, it's roughly $600,000. You look at our increase to Shawsheen, it's about $800,000. It makes sense. We're going to spend more money sending those students to Shawsheen for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm concerned because as stewards of the budget, and that's what you ask us to do for Ways and Means, that we are not seeing that reflection within the BPS budget. So I originally abstained because I asked for more information on trying to look at the section numbers, because 24 students is one math class, one English class, one science class, one social studies class. I think many of you know me. I'm a big proponent of the Burlington Public Schools, big proponent of the budget. I've spoken here on many occasions as proponent to the budget, but this is one of those where the math just didn't math for myself. And so even in receiving supplemental information from the school district, it still is something that is just not quite adding up, and wanting to really have that pause and making sure that we're seeing where these align. And if our class sizes are going down, and that's okay, then this is a values vote, and we should be able to talk about that. On the point about the budgets getting to you all, I will say from the Education Subcommittee, we tried to do this in end of March, early April, and we were pushed back by BPS administration to mid-April. So that did have a ripple effect of when we could actually do it. Last year, if you look, they were at April 8th for their vote on the budget. This year, they're at April 14th. So there are changes that are happening that we do all need to pay attention to. Thank you.
Yeah. Point of information, Mrs. Nash?
Mildred Nash, Precinct 3. I actually should have said point of misinformation, because the one thing I want to mention...
Mrs. Nash, point of information is only dealing with...
Yes, I want to read I want to read the first sentence.
No,
it says the school committee's budget is attached. What bothers me is that if we read in years to come, they're going to say, well, what was all this fuss about? It says it was attached. We got this in April, and yet the people up front have stood and said that they gave all the information to the people that mattered, like I'm not sure who, last week. You can't have it attached when you didn't get it done till last week. It bothers me that what is in here is inaccurate. Thank you.
Mr. Stacci.
Joanne Fristacci, Precinct 3. I'm concerned that there are so many questions and critiques, in particular wanting a presentation. So I would like to make a motion that we postpone this vote till either Wednesday or whenever else, in order to give you the best opportunity to pass your budget. Thank you.
Okay, if we are going to postpone, just postponing a budget defeats it. So you need to postpone to a time certain.
I believe I said Wednesday?
No, you said Wednesday or maybe some other time.
Wednesday.
A time certain on Wednesday.
A time certain on Wednesday.
No, what time?
7 o'clock. after the presentation.
Now, is that a doable time frame, Dr. Conti, to make a presentation? Would you let me finish running the meeting? We haven't gotten there yet. I am asking a question of Dr. Conti.
Town meeting's back.
Waiting, Mr. Moderator.
Is it off on the bottom?
It's like
No, I shouldn't touch the bottom.
COVID never happened.
Hold on, he's turning it on.
Mr. Moderator, there we go.
Here we go.
Thank you. We can really present any time. The presentation would look very much like the summary documents people have received. I'm assuming we're not going to go through line by line. That's what we did with the Ways and Means subcommittee. But again, I think it would depend on, people mentioned a few slides. Other people want much more detail. I really don't have a good idea as to, we could certainly put together some summary slides. It would look very similar to the information people have. But again, would have no problem. I can certainly talk to the school committee about what they would want us to work on and present. This is the school committee's budget at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Conti. The reason I asked Dr. Conti was because if they couldn't do it by that time, then I wouldn't let that motion go forward. So now we have a motion on the floor to postpone until time certain, 7 o'clock on Wednesday, which is a time frame that the school committee can meet. Are there any questions on that proposal? Yes, on this postponement.
Can you hear? Oh, thank you. So as somebody who went to every single...
No, wait a minute. Do you want to postpone this or not? That's all we're talking about.
Because you are saying that the postponement would be for Wednesday at 7 p.m. My concern is that there would not be enough time, that time is built in for questions to be asked. If it is that the school district gives a presentation and then without any discussion we go to vote, I do not support that.
Since when do we ever do that? Of course.
Make sure.
Now, hold on. We always have a discussion on a vote before we vote on a budget. Now, of course, after they have their presentation, we will have a discussion. And you will be able to get
Could I just finish my sentence? I went to every single subcommittee meeting and I asked many questions and not all of them have been answered. So for me to be able to give my support, I need answers to those questions that I asked specifically in every single one of those subcommittee meetings. Thank you.
Well, I would suggest to you and to anyone else has specific questions that you don't think have been covered and haven't been addressed, that you let the school committee know immediately. No later than probably tomorrow at noontime, so that they can deal with them and come back on Wednesday and answer all of your questions. Is there anything further on a postponement? Really, on the postponement? Go ahead, Ms. Wang. No, here, excuse me. Oh. We'll get you up here in the front.
I would encourage all town meeting members.
Excuse me.
Shafan Wong, Precinct 4. I would encourage all town meeting members. These materials were provided. They were provided. They were emailed to us. They were online. There have been many meetings. I would encourage you, if you have a specific question for Dr. Conti and the school committee, let's ask the specific questions. We have the information in hand. I think the feedback has been well received. There's a preference, given this is the largest budget item, that moving forward, we would expect presentations moving forward. But in the interest of being an efficient body, I would ask if you have a specific question regarding the budget, please give Dr. Conti and the school committee the opportunity to answer it in a target way.
Okay. Ms. Santoon.
Michelle Antoon, Precinct 1. I think while it is easy for town meeting members to show up and, bring their warrant and backup and read them on the spot, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be more prepared. And there are recordings of the Ways and Means Committee meetings. There are recordings of the school committee meetings. As Ms. Wong just said, this information is available. I think it's very redundant to ask them to do additional presentations here. If we're going to do that, there are plenty of other budgets that, do we need to sit through this, or can we, ask our questions ahead of time and pay attention to the processes that have been going on for months and show up ready to vote? So I would say that we should not be postponing this, that we should, accept the fact that this is our responsibility to show up somewhat prepared and take this vote now.
Mrs. Beyer.
Thank you. Kathy Beyer, Precinct 2. Especially for brand-new town meeting members, Dr. Conti had already said that this process really started last fall. It has been in process in granular detail for months and months that you could have and should have been following if you had really specific questions or concerns that you wanted answered. We have an outstanding Ways and Means Committee that went over the budget in granular detail. We had a school committee who has been on top of everything. The number came in below, they brought the number in at the rate of increase that was required. They put together a package, it's tied up in a bow, and I agree that going forward, if you would like to have an overview presentation, that is fine, but I don't think we should be postponing. We should be doing our job. On any of the work that our committees are doing, we don't start over again in town meeting. This is the end of the process. You get involved earlier. There's a sign-up sheet on the back table. Write down what committees you're interested in serving on. That's where the work gets done. You don't start the night you come to town meeting. And so I would request that we not postpone the vote on this budget. I am in favor of passing it. I trust the people who have been working on it to have put it together in far better detail than I could have supervised. So thank you for your work.
Mr. Glantz.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nolan Glantz, Precinct 1. We don't necessarily have a count of how many people unfortunately didn't get the materials before tonight, and it's obviously hard for them to vote on it if they didn't get it until tonight, and maybe there's even some who didn't even get it tonight. So I don't know what those numbers are like, and I don't want to do that poll right now. However, if we do wind up voting it down, let's say that the postponement fails, so we vote it tonight, and it gets voted down. If that happens, what happens next?
Good question. We don't have a school budget.
I can't remember the last time we had a budget that went down like that in that fashion, so I don't even really know what the process is. So maybe that information will help us decide.
We have to end up with a budget at some point If we can't agree to this budget, then we'll have to agree to another budget, but we have to come to a budget number. I don't know how to do it at the moment, Nolan, but I'll learn between now and Wednesday.
One more comment, if I may. I'm not in favor of postponing. However, since it feels to me like it might improve the chances of not having it fail because of the handful or however many people feel like they didn't have enough time, then in that case, I'm going to wind up being in favor of postponing, even though I'm not in favor of postponing. Thank you.
Ms. Leone, please. Yes.
Florence Leone, Precinct 1. This motion on the floor, can we vote on the motion, please?
Are you asking to move the question?
Yes.
All right. What we have on the floor is a motion to move the question. It's not debatable. If it passes, then the discussion on this article ends and we will vote on it. It requires a 2/3. Okay. All those in favor of moving the question? All those opposed to moving the question? It's clearly more than 2/3. The moving the question passes, which brings us to a vote on the postponement. All those in favor of postponing, which is the motion in front of us, raise your hand. Or postponing until time certain, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion fails. This brings us back to the main motion. We are discussing the school department budget. Does anybody have any further questions on the budget? Yes, ma'am, right here.
Adrienne Simeone, Precinct 6. I have been to every school committee meeting and I have looked at the budget extensively, and I have a number of concerns that I think a lot of people should have. Specifically, when I went to the school committee meeting where the elementary principals were bringing up their budget issues, which their only main issue was that they had an increase on paper and pencils and crayons. And a school committee member told them that she hoped they would have the money in the budget for these essential items for our kids. And I think that's ridiculous. We have a technology budget that's blown through the roof. All these kids have iPads, and there's a growing amount of research showing how bad this technology is impacting the education of our kids. There are so many things in this budget, from workshops, conferences, travel, trainings, seminars, that can be cut from this budget and be put towards better things that can actually positively impact the education of our children. So I do not support this budget. I think we need to push it back and challenge them to put something forth that we will be proud to vote for.
Thank you. Further comments on this budget? Ms. Simon, and then we'll get to Myrna.
Martha Simon, Precinct 3. Mr. Glantz asked earlier what happens if the budget gets voted down, and I was a little surprised that we didn't get an answer from up there, but it's my understanding that we would probably need to have a special election, which would cost a whole bunch of money. I mean, not a special town meeting where it would have to be regathered, and if somebody knows differently, please speak, but I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. I'm hoping people will support this budget. The school committee has spent, as we've mentioned, months going over it with a fine-tooth comb. They stayed within guidelines. There are items in the budget that some people would disagree with, but town meeting only has the authority to vote this budget up or down. Earlier, we had holds on individual line items. Town meeting is allowed to vote on those items. Town meeting does not vote on the individual conferences that the school committee has voted to approve, and that is the authority of the school committee. That's one of the 3 things that school committee does, is that they vote the budget. And if people have concerns, I think useful suggestions have been made tonight. A couple of people mentioned maybe next year there could be more of a sort of summary at town meeting for people who have not followed the process. But town meeting does not have line item authority over the school committee budget. The school committee does. And they meet in public for many months to discuss this. And they also have a public hearing. And in my time on school committee, I don't know that anyone ever showed up for the public hearing, and I was on for 9 years. So I think that these are good questions, but this is not the forum for asking all of these questions. I hope that people will support this budget. I know they spent a lot of time and were thoughtful about what it should be. If people have questions about the ways that the students are being counted and the class sizes are being counted, great. Bring those to the school committee next year when the budget process is going. Call your school committee members and let them know what your concerns are. Thank you, and I hope people will pass this budget.
Ms. Saltman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltman, Precinct 2. This booklet has a lot of great information, and I thank the committee and the administration for putting it together. However, there is a breakdown for every elementary school in this booklet about how many students per class and how many kids in the school. But when you come to the middle school and the high school, there's no breakout like that. You have to look at a graph. And I think those are important numbers that should be disseminated to us so that we know how many kids are in the middle school, how many kids per class, likewise for the high school. It's only here for the elementary schools.
Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Holtman. The schedules work very differently for the middle school and high school in regards to class sizes. So they can fluctuate differently than in elementary school, where we assign students to homerooms. So where we have that detail available, we've provided it. We have general, I guess, sections of high school classes that are needed, but not every high school student has the same schedule. So we can give you average class size by department. The school committee does look at that. And again, the middle school is divided into, as many of you know, into 9 teams. So the students would be divided there. But I think the enrollment that we have projected for the middle school next year is about 832. And I think we're about 930 or so for the high school. So again, those class sizes really depend on oftentimes student preference, student interest, and they can vary. The teacher's contract does cap class sizes at 26 for general education teachers, physical education. Some specialists have higher caps. We don't come close to the 26, so I do think class size is something the school committee does prioritize in terms of trying to emphasize smaller class sizes.
Mr. Denizio, could you please inform us as to what happens if we don't pass the school department budget?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So we have to have an appropriation in place for July 1st. So if there is a budget that isn't passed, or if this were to fail and an amended budget wasn't moved forward at this town meeting, we would have to have a special town meeting because we have to have an appropriation in place for July 1st.
Thank you. Mrs. Nash, you've already had 3 chances. Other people get an opportunity. Yes, up at the back.
Jamie Weber, Precinct 7. I do follow the school committee budget. I actually follow it very closely. I follow the school committee very closely. I have some questions. One, every town in Massachusetts has voted an override. So people throughout Massachusetts and taxpayers throughout Massachusetts should be concerned with the amount of overrides being passed. There was one in Arlington, and Arlington waived, due to the MBTA's Community Act, all the building inspecting fees for plumbing, electrical, and that was like $2 to $3 million, and then they passed an override. So there was also some postings and information that they voted down the Shawsheen Tech budget because of non-transparency and budget line items. So I think that people are paying attention. I am a taxpayer. I work 2 jobs as it is. I don't need to work more jobs because people aren't responsible fiscally. In the athletic budget for the 2026, there's a $93,000 increase in the budget. $68,000 of that is for athletic uniforms, but it doesn't break down the teams. It does not break down how the spending goes. And we have a lot of misspending and a lot of items addressed to the school committee in emails, because I'm a regular email to the school committee. I'm a regular email to records request. And there's a lot of transparency that doesn't go into those budget line items. And I think as a taxpayer, we have the right to question those items. I mean, Ways and Committees meeting mentioned something about $10,000 as well. So we are watching the meetings and we are paying attention. And I don't understand what the feet is to the fire to get this budget passed when we have some serious, we voted down a high school, so we do have some concerns about the budget, and we should take some time as a budget this big in a community to really have some insight.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Will you allow Dr. Conti to answer now?
I'm not sure there's a question, but I would want to make a couple comments. The budget guideline, we had to reduce our operating budget down to the 4.25%. Mr. Denizio sort of summarized, and Ways and Means summarized, in terms of the long-term financial planning for the town, I believe is not to need to have an override. So we are partnering with everybody. We are reducing our costs to meet those guidelines, which we did. The detail that Ms. Weber talked about, for instance, with uniforms, is something that was discussed with and at the school committee, where the athletic director has all the athletic teams on a rotating basis, and he tries to replace a boys team and a girls team's uniforms, I think every year, over a 3 or 4 year period, or a 3 to 5 year period. I forget his rotation. Some of the team uniforms are more expensive than others, so if there's a fluctuation or an increase, it might be a particularly expensive team. But I think he discussed that next year there are going to be football uniforms, and I'm blanking on the other team, but I can certainly get you that information. The football uniforms are one of the more expensive teams that we have to equip. So again, we do work very closely. I don't believe there's mismanagement. Our expenses are communicated publicly through a warrant. They all go through town hall. And again, how we pay our bills is a very public process. So I would disagree with that characterization of how we spend the money that that we are grateful for receiving from taxpayers through this body. And again, we work very closely with Ways and Means to make sure that we are contributing in part of the town's long-term financial planning.
Yes, Mrs. Nash. Point of information is about process.
This is about process.
I will be the judge of that.
This is historical process. I want to refer back to a town meeting we had in which something like this came up when someone like Ms. Simon said, we can't do anything about the individual items, so just vote it. And somebody stood up.
Mrs. Nash, you're out of order.
Which was that.
Please sit down, Mrs. Nash. You are out of order.
We could reduce the size of.
You are out of order, please.
We did it when.
Thank you. They may have done something different, but.
Excuse me, but I have a solution to the problem that you're worried about if you listen.
You had your opportunity to speak now 4 times. Other people get an opportunity.
I did not mean to cause this. I just meant to say, We want information, and if we can't, we
You-
don't want to get rid of the budget, but we can reduce it because we did it one year.
You've made yourself very clear.
Just showing protest.
Okay. Now, questions on this budget? Yes, up at the back.
Hello, Ted Manka, Precinct 2. I had a couple questions as it relates to how we compare with other towns in terms of the budget. I was looking at some of the numbers related to our spending. One of the things that was kind of interesting was some things that were classified as other. So as an example, other instructional materials for libraries, looking at other towns, Bedford spends $18 per pupil, Billerica $38, Wilmington 15, Woburn 117, we spend 245, and then another one which is other instructional materials, Bedford spends 136 per pupil, Billerica 24, Wilmington 73, Woburn only $7 per pupil, but we spend 852 per pupil. So just want to get comment on that. Another thing was I made a request for access to the general ledger just so we could the entire town can see how we're spending on individual transactions to see where our money is going, and I'm hoping that we can get a commitment to open up that information. Thank you.
Dr. Conti, can you comment on comparing towns, one town to another?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's very difficult to do town-to-town comparisons depending on how granular that you want to do that. Some towns don't transport their students. We do. Some school districts have the maintenance department included in their budgets. Other towns, it's not included in their budget. Sometimes a business manager would put other materials in a different place. So again, a per pupil spending cost, we can look at certain levels of granularity. It's really, I'd have to see exactly what was being purchased by those towns, Mr. Manka, to make sort of a comparison. And again, Burlington is generously funded. So again, no one is trying to deny that. And we are working on your request and certainly are aware of it and are working on it.
Yes, Ms. Warren. Ms. Warren. Yes, Ms. O'Brien, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Patricia O'Brien, Precinct 2. I just ask us to really pay close attention with what Chris Campbell had spoken to. In a lot of ways, the fact that we didn't get a presentation escaped me a bit, but we haven't ever had a real presentation. And for $67 million, we deserve it. I think that the process is there for us to participate in if we can and as much as we want to. And for many of us, like my fellow town meeting member, Ms. Wang, who is terrifically involved in every issue we have, for her to have been able to speak to a few specific line items and then to almost be dismissed by this body as she didn't have the right to ask the questions because it's not in our prerogative to ask the line item questions is kind of disturbing. And it's kind of disturbing to me that this body thinks it's okay because we as a body have put tremendous trust in our school system every single year. And there are only a few things, I think, that jump out at us as being concerning. The DEI position that we funded several years ago has now morphed into something that I think many of us don't understand. There's discrepancies between how we fund athletics versus arts. You know, there are a lot of things that individuals might have a concern about. And the fact that the expectation is that we participate in every single subcommittee meeting for a $67 million budget, and in 10 minutes we're going to argue about whether we replace a DPW truck. and we're going to spend a half an hour talking about a $50,000 truck. And I really want to say that I was able to observe, I think, 2, maybe 3 of the subcommittee meetings. I was not able to participate because I was at work and I was like half listening. But it's a huge component. And as, I'm sorry, I don't remember the fellow town meeting member, our taxpayers are hurting. You know, this community is stratified economically. There's a bunch of people who live in the brand new houses, and then there's a bunch of us who still live in a 1950s ranch. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but if you go back and you look at the way that Chris approached the process, he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for raising the issues at the level where it adds up to something. When you talk about a $93,000 budget for uniforms and you can rationalize it because you rotate the teams who get the new uniforms, that's all great. But it all adds up. And we need to save where we can. And I heard John Denizio, I heard what he was saying about the budget in the future. We're going to have to reduce sometime soon. And so we really need to change the process and our mindset of how we look at our school budget and how we can participate, even if it's inconvenient. Democracy is slow and painful. Thank you.
Now, is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to speak? That's not you, Monty. You've spoken already. Is there anyone new who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to speak? That's still not you, Monty. Well, you're going to wait a while because I didn't ask for you yet. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. Move the question.
Second.
Okay, we've been through this, so you should know the process. It's not debatable. This ends the debate on the budget, and then we'll move to a vote if this passes. It's a 2/3. All those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It's a clear 2/3. The motion passes, which brings us to voting on the budget in front of us for the school department, their operating budget. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. All those opposed? It's a clear majority, and the article passes. Mike, you're 10 minutes earlier than usual. There is a motion on the floor to adjourn. Now, remember, we have a lot of business to handle, and if we adjourn now, that just means we go longer on some other night. So just don't forget that. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The motion fails. Let's keep going, doing our business. Which brings us to special education. Article 55, $16,835,321, a 3.5% increase. Who had a question on this? $82, same page we've been dealing with. Okay. Is there a question out there on this? 82, the same one you were on. Has everybody found it now? On page 82. Who had a question? If you held it, you better have a question. Mr. Manka.
Ted Manka, Precinct 2. I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity on the transportation costs for special education at $200 per pupil per day on a bus. If someone could explain that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Manka, that's an average cost. Some of the students require specialized transportation with support while they're being transported, so it's just an average cost that we use. Through the moderator, we're required to provide the transportation. I think you're aware of that already.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Adrian Simeone, Precinct 6. So that's $200 per student on average per day, 43 kids for 180 days. That's $1.5 million that we spend to transport children to and from school. Just want to make sure that's what we're talking about. 1.5, 48,000.
Dr. Conti.
Mr. Moderator, I believe that math is correct. Transportation is a significant expense. So one of the things we've done to try to manage that is if we're transporting students to a common school and they're coming from multiple towns, we work through the collaborative, which is, our collaborative is called LAB, which is Lexington, Arlington, Bedford, Burlington, Belmont, and Watertown. We work collaboratively to try to lower the average cost by not just sending one Burlington student to a particular place. The bus, if they're going to a particular place and it meets the child's needs, we could pick up students from multiple communities to take them to that placement. So we are trying to watch our transportation costs. But again, it's a very expensive part of educating this particular group of children.
Mr. Campbell.
Just Chris Campbell, Precinct 1. Just wanted to add some quick context to the transportation. Most of those students, it actually isn't 180 days. They're going to be going to a 5 to 6 week summer program. Some of those students are going to school all year as well. So those add to it. Students also may be required to have a aid or monitor on, something else that adds to all of those. And we also have medically fragile students that require monitors too. They're not decisions that are done lightly. I will say though, there is not a lot of competition for this in the state. And so we're really left with what is out there in order to do those types of transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Anything further? Seeing nothing. Let's vote on it. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? The special ed budget passes. Which brings us to Department 301, Shawsheen Assessment. All right. Now, somewhere in my paperwork, I have Mr. Davison, please.
Take
Take the white one.
Hello. So just some background on this, because this is not a usual recommendation from Ways and Means. We voted 4 in favor and 8 against. We don't often come with a negative vote on a budget, and I can't remember ever coming with a negative vote for a budget, occasionally for a specific item. So I'm just going to run you through what has happened to this point. The original review that we scheduled was for April 15th. We spent about 2.5 hours in discussion with Tony McIntosh, Stacy Uberty, Ken Moffitt, and their consultant Paul Livingstone. This was after the Education Subcommittee had met. After the 2 or 2.5 hour mark, and it was clear that it was going to be a negative vote, we postponed our vote for 2 weeks. And I think most people walked away thinking that we'd be able to kind of make some sense, get our questions answered, work through some problems, and then we'd be ready to vote positively for this budget. In the interim, I asked Ed Parsons to serve as a liaison and kind of the point person so that we could funnel any questions from our committee to Shawsheen and any answers from Shawsheen back through one person and keep it more organized. So I appreciate all the extra work that Ed has done on this. Additionally, the finance committees from the other sending towns, not Bedford, but Tewksbury, Wilmington, and Billerica, also shared almost exactly the same concerns, which was also rewarding for us, because it felt like, okay, we're on the right track and we're not making things up here. So during that time, we still just didn't get the answers that we think we needed, and we certainly, our minds weren't put at ease. I don't think anything wrong is happening at Shawsheen. I don't think anyone that voted against this was voting against the program. I think we have concerns. They've been through some rough times as far as who is leading the business side and what help they had. So I think they need quite a bit of work, and we just weren't comfortable that enough people on their school committee were buying into that at that point. Ed and I also met with Kent and Moffitt and Stacy, then I always forget, Uberty? Thank you. Our Shawsheen reps on the school committee from Burlington. I want to say that they've done a great job. They're involved, and if you watch the Shawsheen Tech School Committee meetings, Kent has been a champion for trying to solve these problems and fix them, and for the most part, it feels like it fell on deaf ears. So I can say nothing but good things about our local representation. Bring it back to the lack of clear answers to our questions and a plan to fix the problems concerns us. We've seen a failure to kind of coalesce around a plan to adopt standards operating procedures for their business office and for budgeting. We met again on April the 29th. We spent another between an hour and 2 hours discussing it again. And at that point, we voted 4-8-0. You may have seen in the Burlington Buzz, shout out to Nikki, that there was a comment that even though we may be voting this down, we hope to come to town meeting and encourage you to vote yes. Unfortunately, we still haven't achieved that. We still haven't come to the point where we're comfortable recommending to you that this budget is ready. So now we're in a position where 4 of the 5 sending communities, finance committees, are very supportive of the school, but very concerned about our money. Currently, the Tewksbury Town Meeting voted a decreased amount for the budget, which counts as a no. So if you vote anything other than the amount that they sent us, it's a no. Tewksbury voted no with a decreased amount. Bedford voted yes Wilmington voted yes. Wilmington's Finance Committee was very concerned, and they voted against the budget and recommended against its passage. Billerica Finance Committee has voted to recommend not passing the budget to their town meeting, and it has yet to occur. I think there's a high likelihood that they will vote a lower number. So for a quick overview, so we understand, if two towns vote any number lower than the number proposed by the school committee, the budget fails. This will require the Shawsheen School Committee to come up with a revised budget within 30 days and submit it back to the towns. Each town then has 45 days to either hold a special town meeting or allow the 45 days to elapse, which is then treated as an approval. As long as we have approved an appropriation large enough to be able to raise and appropriate the funding, we can follow up at September town meeting to fill any gap that may be there. We also have an option, if we vote a lower number, to cover any difference from the other technical school line items, Essex Tech or Minuteman. Those are still estimated amounts, and we don't know yet how many students are going to go to those programs. So if there's money in those accounts, we could cover the difference there. I'd like to ask Ed Parsons now as kind of the liaison and point person to better explain our concerns.
Mr. Parsons, please.
Thank you. Through the moderator. I apologize, it's late. I'll try not to be too redundant with what Doug has already told you. First and foremost, Burlington's Ways and Means Committee recognizes the Shawsheen Vocational Technical School is an essential part of our community, and it's an essential part of our economy. For 60 years, it has educated thousands of us, including some of the leadership of the 5 member towns, and we are dedicated to its success in the future. We've reviewed the FY27 budget document thoroughly, working with the superintendent and finance committees in the other 4 towns in the district. We have noted several problems. Those include inconsistencies between the summary and detailed tables, and an incorrect assertion regarding the year-on-year budget increase. Similar mistakes were made and pointed out in last year's budget, but they were repeated. The past 2 budgets were asserted to have been 3% and 2% increases, when in fact they were 7% and 6% increases. We've also reviewed audit reports from the past several years. For FY24, deficiencies in financial accounting and management were noted, and efforts are being made to remediate those deficiencies. Those are ongoing. We reviewed the state's official certifications of Shawsheen's excess and deficiencies for the past several years. This is a lot like Burlington's free cash certification. After FY24, there were $986,000 in accounts that required further reconciliation. The FY25 certification was received quite late, in fact, just last week, and right now there are $1.4 million in accounts that require further reconciliations. That's a snapshot. At a high level, the reasons for the accounting issues are pretty clear. The district only recently hired a treasurer, currently doesn't have a permanent business manager. Their finance and accounting infrastructure is lacking, and we're not confident that we see sufficient remediation in the current budget plan. We want to stress that Shawsheen's budget appears to well support the educational program. Shawsheen understands the need to remediate the financial issues, and they're working with a contractor to keep the books and address deficiencies. They are currently interviewing business manager candidates. However, these are all works in progress, and we remain concerned until the efforts are complete. We took a vote on reducing their budget, which would be part of the mechanism for revisiting it, and that failed because we don't want to reduce their budget. We want to fund their operations. They're doing great work that we support, but we also could not support the budget. And so fortunately, we do have a mechanism for revisiting it, and that is what Doug has already apprised you of. We are recommending that we do revisit that budget, and we're looking for 4 things in a new proposal. First, a clear budget document where the key numbers and increases are self-consistent. Secondly, the hiring of a permanent business manager. It would be great to have someone on board to see this through. Third, a plan for establishing accounting and financial control SOPs with the resources earmarked in the budget for that. Fourth, a plan for reconciliation of all the past accounting so that new business manager has a solid foundation for success with resources earmarked for that. So we're left with the need to fund Shawsheen but reject the budget as we have voted. The procedure is to reduce their budget by a nominal amount. That sends it back. They have 30 days to repropose, and we can reconsider. We think that if we go through that process, the resulting budget is going to be acceptable, and we won't have to have another town meeting to approve it. So I'd like to thank the Shawsheen's administration and our school committee representatives for working with us in a long and arduous process of trying to drill down on these issues. We're committed to working with Shawsheen to support the budgeting, to support the remainder of their management transition, and we're committed to Shawsheen's success. We believe taking a bit more time with this budget is what's best for the future of the district. So in summary, Shawsheen is an important part of our community. It's at a very important time as the state is focusing on supporting vocational technical education and is considering helping fund a major renovation for the school. So it's critical to get the accounting and financial management in order. So we have an amendment prepared that will affect all of that.
Make your amendment.
The amendment, which I will move, is to amend the regional school assessment budget, line 56 of your budget, by reducing the appropriation from $4,071,349 to $4,070,349, resulting in a net reduction of $1,000 to the Shawsheen regional assessment. The Shawsheen assessment is now $3,905,349. That's a $1,000 decrease. Essex technical assessment remains at $125,000, no change. Minuteman regional assessment at $40,000, no change. Total regional assessment $4,070,349. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. And that was a lot to digest. I hope, so with that, you have questions for Mr. Parsons on where we're going with this? Yes. Yes, Alex, go ahead. Mr. Rutfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. So if I'm understanding this correctly, this $1,000 decrease is less of like actually trying to restrict the budget and more because you think they can come back in 30 days with a lot of the concerns alleviated, because $1,000 isn't much, but it would still count as a no, is my understanding.
Mr. Parsons, please.
Thank you, through the moderator. That is absolutely correct. We don't wish to reduce the budget. I'd love to give them another dollar to affect this because they need the accounting support. So what we want to do is fully fund the school and its operations, but we want to give them a mulligan and spend a little more time making sure that we're addressing the accounting issues.
Is that Mr. Toppin? Is that what I heard?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jason Toppin, Precinct 5. Despite the $1,000 decrease here, could you clarify the percent increase of this year's budget and last year's budget for Shawsheen?
I have a full spreadsheet. The last year's was about 7%. This year's was 6.09%.
Yes, Ms. Witlinski. Sarah.
Sarah Wolinski, Precinct 5. Given the depth of the issues you uncovered, how confident are you that 30 days is enough for them to get this mess back into order in a way that we don't have to have a special town meeting? Because it sounds like that would be an outcome if they are not able to follow the happy path you described.
Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. Again, through the moderator, I think that this is an ongoing process. And this is better than the alternative. I think that we are coalescing around our support. I think working through the issues just helps us face them. So will everything be fixed? I don't know. I mean, a lot of these issues may already have been fixed with their contract consultant who's been working on the budget, but we don't have the clarity to know at this point. So I think we'll be better off in a couple of months. In any case, the state will end up requiring us to fund the school. And so it's best to approve funding. The only reason to reconvene town meeting is to say no, which is not exactly what we want to do. We want to fund them so that they can move forward.
Ms. Kim, did you have a question?
Christine Kim, Precinct 4. What are we expecting to change in the next 30 days? And you're saying a few months, but that's not the 30-day window. And I feel like we're not giving them enough time to do what they have to do. And I don't know that that would change in the next 30 days. How does that affect, like, are you saying if we say we're off by $1,000, then we don't have to come back to and do another town meeting to approve that? Like, what are we expecting to be different? Because, like, they're working on stuff now, but 30 days is not a very long time to get a business manager in there, you know, get them set up. They've got things like in line as it is now to work on the issues that are going on there now, and they're hiring, but 30 days isn't going to be enough time. And then you're saying that you support the budget, but you're not supporting the budget, which is really kind of confusing to me. Like, I want to be able to say, I want to give them the time they need to be able to fix the issues, and there are definitely, you know, some numbers that don't look correct, but I know that they're working on the issues. So if we're only giving them 30 days and we're still going to pass it, I don't understand what the point of the 30 days is, I guess. Can you explain that a little clearer for me? I'm sorry. Thanks.
Through the moderator. That's a very fair point. I do think that we can make progress, some progress in 30 days. And I think the greatest progress we could make is to coalesce around the view that we have to make some changes and support instituting some financial SOPs. And I think there's been a bit of a standoff, frankly. I think the school committee has been very reluctant to admit issues. And I don't think that's tenable. And there are several finance committees that are not going to accept that. And so I think that their budget will be rejected in Billerica. And so the move for Burlington is to say, okay, we want to sit down and see if we can be helpful. We also want to assert that we want to fund you fully as a signal to the other towns.
Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. So is there a drop-dead date? If they don't do something by a certain date, let's say 3 months from now, it's still a mess. Are we just going to go along with it and say, well, that's the way it is. We'll just keep giving you $4 million and, you know, we'll let you just keep throwing it away. I mean, when do we draw the line? And I'd also like to know, is the state going to get involved? It sounds like this is a pretty big chunk of money that they can't account for. And I would think maybe the Attorney General or gets involved, you know, to say what's going on.
Go ahead, Ed. Excuse me.
So first, I want to be very, very careful that we understand that there's not money being thrown away. The problem is in the accounting. There's a variety of regulations around segregating certain revolving accounts. Those requirements have come online progressively. I believe, the best we can postulate, that some of those accounts weren't set up correctly. It's theirs to fix, and I think that it's a very fixable problem. We've seen districts fix such problems. Yes, if they were not to present another budget in 30 days, we could default to the budget they have. I believe, and I'm not an expert here, we might have to ask council, that the state would require us to continue funding at the previous budget, month by month. We can't just abandon a school district, and we won't. And further, we'd like to fund their educational programs largely as they've outlined, but we have to get the accounting straight. In the long run, that's absolutely necessary, given our ambition for technical education, given that the state has already deemed them worthy of consideration for a major school building project. We have to have tight accounting before we can start discussing that further.
Roger, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. So in terms of transparency, are you suggesting that this may or may not be the budget that actually comes back through after we know what they have been able to fix in what you're trying to achieve? I mean, is this the real budget end up being the same number, or could it be different?
Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. I can only tell you what I would anticipate, which is with little time and with some agreement that they're funding the programs that need to be funded. I would assume that the budget would be very similar. I think Shawsheen would be better positioned to tell you if they want to make any major changes, but I'm almost certain they would say that they don't want to make changes. What we'd like to do is just have better communication among and between finance committees and Shawsheen, because I do think we do have some experience to lend, and we also would like to just have more open dialogue. If there are problems, we'd like to support them. We'd like to not have a standoff where they try to polish it up and get through budget season, and then the problems persist for next year. So I think the educational budget itself is really not the issue. It is making sure that we are all dedicated to cleaning up the accounting so that year on year the budget is crystal clear.
Excuse me, as a follow-up, I'm not sure that I'm seeing that that's going to happen in the time frame you're talking about. So is this going to come back and we're still standing here talking about this, whether we're actually going to fund a budget that we're not comfortable with? I mean, this is your recommendation in terms of Ways and Means.
Mr. Davison.
Through the moderator. I don't think we expect the problems to be solved. I'm maybe a little less diplomatic than my vice chair. At this point, the last public meetings, the statements that were made from school committee members, not ours, were things like, we're not even sure we have a problem, or if we even have a problem. At the Shawsheen town meeting, there was a statement made by a school committee member, believe it was I'll be damned, but I'm not sure if I'll work with the town finance committee. This is our budget. So in our meeting, my concern was, I'm not quite sure that they have a majority of school committee members that are willing to do to commit to the work that needs to be done to clean this up. I don't think it's criminal. We don't see anything that seems criminal. It's poor accounting, and we just can't follow the money and follow the books. And so we get things like it's going to be a 2% increase and it's really a 7% increase. So what we're asking for is participation, a commitment. We'd really like to see an audit that really tries to go back and reconcile these. We've suggested bringing in another consultant to do and to help the new business person not start off behind the 8 ball trying to fix all these problems, but they've got some support. They need standard operating procedures. They just need some extra work. And what we're asking, one of the things we've asked for is that you show us how you're going to do that. But there's been pushback, not from everybody, but we feel like this vote and the vote from the other communities will be the wake-up call, hopefully, to make that happen.
If that's the case, then why should we vote any budget at all on this?
Because we need to have a number that we can raise and appropriate, because we're going to get a bill from the state whether we vote for this or not. We're at least required to do, I think it's $2.7 million. And the state will assess us, they'll be able to assess us that money. If we don't vote a number, then that won't be in our budget, and we'll have to find that money in other line items. So it's going to be more beneficial to us to appropriate an amount, and if we leave $1,000 off, we can fill that $1,000. So it's going to be more beneficial to us to have an appropriation, because we're going to have to spend the money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, that is.
Mr. Schmuckler, we haven't heard from you tonight.
Mark Schmuckler, Precinct 7. I understand that we want to send a message. I'm supportive of the general idea. I'm curious why we're recommending $1,000 less as opposed to 4.25% increase, which is what we're trying to get across our whole town, and we're asking the schools to get to that number. Can you tell me the thinking?
Mr. Parsons, go ahead.
Thank you. That's a fair observation. The fact is, we don't know the details of the Shawsheen expenses. There are a lot of reasons why they could have more than a 4.25% increase. And I think long run, if you have better accounting systems, we'll have a much better sense of cost drivers in the future. And we can manage them better. Right now, there's immediacy to funding the school so the kids have a place to go to school. So decreasing by $1,000 is meant to be a token amount because the procedure prescribed by law is dependent on us voting something different. It's safe within rounding error. Just to add some detail, the Shawsheen district as a regional district doesn't get to forward capital warrant articles. They don't have a town administration taking care of healthcare costs, which have been rising wildly for everyone in our economy of late. And they don't have separate accommodated accounts. So those are very granular reasons why their budget might rise more quickly than ours.
Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Martha Simon, Precinct 3. I see that some very educated people about accounting have done a lot of research on this. Mr. Parsons, Mr. Davison, the committee. And I believe that although this particular amendment would have to be responded to in 30 days, in fact, you've been talking with the other finance committees from the other sending towns, because as most of you know, this regional school has students from 5 different towns that are responsible for its budget. And each of these towns, as they've been telling us, have to vote on it. And Mr. Parsons in particular, as Mr. Davison said, has been researching, has been talking to other people, has been looking at the budgets, and I think that concerns about, well, could they get it done in 30 days? There's no guarantee, but it's a process that you've been in. And in fact, just last week, there was some new information that came through from the, I don't know all the terms, but like the reconciliation from the previous inconsistencies. So there's new information already. And so I support this motion and voting in favor of the Shawsheen budget with this amendment to put pressure on the Shawsheen School Committee, which sounds like some people understand this is really a problem and some may need a little pushing. I think that it's useful as a way to do it. My question might be, so is there some mechanism by which, and so I'm going to vote for it, and I hope everyone else will, but is there a mechanism where there's like a list, we voted for this, but we want to make sure your new business manager is on board, we want you to hire a consultant, we want, you listed 3 or 4 things that we want them to tell us they're going to do, and I don't know what the mechanism is for that piece, and I'd be interested in you repeat, maybe you said it, but if you could explain that again, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parsons.
The regional school district has bottom line authority in the same way as our local school district. So what we can do is suggest. Our instruments here are terribly blunt. And so what we're saying here is we mean it. And furthermore, other towns mean it also. So we're kind of getting dragged along, and we're preemptively stating what we'd like to see. Some of that is already being accomplished. I've spoken with our school committee reps. They want to accomplish these things. I think that the message is very important, which is we're giving you a license to invest a little bit of your budget in cleaning up the accounting. That's always a big problem with school budgets, as I'm sure you know. You want to put all your resources towards the kids. In the short term, you're strongly incented to do that. In the long term, you need to have tight accounting so you can do that job better. If the only thing that is accomplished in 30 days is to go through the budget and make sure the numbers add up, and we know exactly where there were errors, we can fix that in an afternoon, and I think everyone is going to be much more comfortable. And then the gravy would be to have a meeting of the minds and understand that all of the finance committees and towns support cleaning up some of these things that have lingered for several years.
Mr. Boyven.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Boyven, Precinct 1. I request that we move this question to accept this amendment.
Question has been moved. We've gone through this a couple times tonight already. You got this process down. All those in favor of moving the question? Thank you. All those opposed? It's a clear 2/3 majority. Let's move on to the, so let's vote on accepting the amendment, and then we'll have to vote on the amended budget, okay? So all those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. All those opposed to the amendment? Thank you. Okay, the amendment passes. Brings us to a vote on the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion? Thank you. All those opposed? The main motion passes. I've been waiting for you, Mike. There's a motion to adjourn on the floor. Any all in favor? Opposed? Let's go home. Good.